Tuesday morning, it's now time for the news. My name is Pakwesi Shandoff. The Ministry of Employment and Labour Relations and the striking teacher unions will continue their deliberations today. The Ghana National Association of Teachers, the National Association of Graduate Teachers and the Coalition of Concerned Teachers last week declared an indefinite nationwide strike to protest the appointment of the new Director General of the Ghana Education Service, Dr. Eric Nkansa. Conversations between them and government as part of efforts to end the strike has had two separate meetings with the teacher unions. Here is a report by Richard Kwejenyako.
Day one of the meeting between the teacher unions and the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Labour, and as well as the GES has come to an end, but they did not reach a decision. They are to return to the table tomorrow for the finality of the matter to be determined. In fact, when we spoke with them, they indicated that they belong to some other associations, and so they had to reach out to them. It's not all of them that they have gotten in touch with, and so they want to do that. That is from the teacher union. They want to do that and then return to the table, and they are confident that by tomorrow, 2 p.m. when they meet, a closure will be brought on this matter. And we've been speaking with the president of NAT, Isaac Owusu.
The agreement here is that the two parties have agreed that we should adjourn and resume tomorrow 2 p.m.
What are some of the considerations?
Please, we shall conclude tomorrow exactly 2 p.m. So be rest assured. We do not want to apportion any blame to anybody. Whether the government side have failed or the unions have failed, nobody has failed.
Are you getting signals that he'll be removed?
Certainly tomorrow when we meet.
Mr. President,
certainly, please listen to me. Certainly tomorrow when we meet, the outcome will be before you. Thank you very much.
Continues?
I said we have adjourned to this meeting. We have adjourned to this meeting. You see, so until the teachers hear from the leadership of the union, till now we have adjourned the meeting. So until tomorrow they hear from the leadership of the union, what I can say is that the teachers should remain calm and continue to stay at home.
Only the removal of the DG that is on the table, or that
I cannot let the cat out of the bag, please. I said we couldn't conclude tomorrow. Certainly tomorrow all the detail will be put before you.
Now, on behalf of the Ministry of Education, the Labour Relations, they had a spokesperson in the person of the Deputy Minister of Employment and Labour Relations, Reku Brobe, and he's been explaining that, well, the meeting was somewhat successful, except that the teacher unions had to tell them that they had to do further consultations in order to return to the table. So they are confident that by tomorrow, they will reach an amicable resolution of this matter, and they put everything behind them.
The second time you have failed to call the teachers to go back to work.
You see, when you say failed, it's a very strong word. We have not failed. If there are issues and you are discussing and you say failed, you're already preempting the outcome of it. We have not. We've in fact had another constructive meeting, which for me, tomorrow, God willing, you know, we have to do further consultations. They, on the other hand, says that yes, they have other stakeholders beyond those who came here. So tomorrow, God willing, we will bring this matter to a very successful end.
Now, was this first half of the meeting successful, according to you?
For me, I mean, we all came thinking that we could resolve it today. To that extent, I would have wished that this thing was dealt with and we are fine, but it didn't happen like that. We have to allow, because it takes two to tango, and we can't be that entrenched and say we are keeping them. So once they have promised and given us tomorrow, God willing, let's all be optimistic and let Ghanaians know that this matter will be resolved.
What reason did they give you for coming back tomorrow?
Further consultations.
Prime Minister, do you have the signal that the unions are backing down their decision, calling for the removal of the Director General?
Oh, I am very optimistic that tomorrow, God willing, we will rest this matter.
That he will be removed or he will still be at post?
We are talking about a matter which outcome will be determined.
Meanwhile, the Kumasi Technical University chapter of the Technical University Teachers Association of Ghana says that the newly appointed Director General of the Ghana Education Service has the requisite knowledge to ensure technical and vocational education thrives. Dr. Bismarck Kwekupaka is chairman of TUTAC at KSTU.
The conditions of service for TUTAG members expired in 2016. It took the intervention of the National Labour Commission in 2021 to activate engagement with the government. It was subsequently directed that the reviewed terms be rolled out from August 2021, with January 2023 being the implementation date. President of TUTAG, Professor Collins Ameyao, explains the component is missing from the budget of the universities due to refusal of the government to issue letters to the universities.
I struggle to understand why government will be dragging its feet, especially on the IGF conditions of service. And we have picked intelligence, I have indicated that our VCs, I would say some of the VCs are lobbying to defer these payments to January 2023, which means that our colleagues who retired last year will not benefit. And that is unfair. Somebody will come and work here for over 30 years and retire with 3 months gross salary as his retirement package. That is highly unfair. And I'm calling on the VCs to do the needful. If they think they are not behind this, they should write a letter and copy us. They should write to the government that government should approve the conditions of service and copy us, and we'll take them out of the equation.
The association has kicked against unilateral variation of some allowances by the government. Professor Ameyao calls for its reversal.
We wish to reiterate our earlier position that the decision by the government to unilaterally vary our conditions of service is illegal and must be reversed with immediate effect. Meanwhile, TUTAG has taken the right steps to bring to the attention of the government and the National Labour Commission. On 26 September 2022, its rejection of government's refusal to adjust the off-campus and vehicle maintenance allowance rates using the reviewed export price at that time. Unfortunately, government has refused to engage TUTAG, much similar to the attitude they keep displaying towards UTAG and the other labor unions. Even though some of the technical universities have commenced the 2022-2023 academic year, the 2021-2022 book and research allowances are still outstanding for majority of our members. TUTAG vehemently registers its displeasure with the unprecedented delays that have characterized the payment of the 2021-2022 book and research allowances. Government must take note of the overwhelming support for a strike action at a recently held Congress of TUTAG in Bolgatanga should government fail to address these concerns or engage TUTAG to have an amicable settlement of these issues within the next 10 days.
For JoyNews, Nana Yaojima, Kumasi.
Now, away from that development, Chairman of the Christian Council of Ghana, Right Reverend Professor Joseph Obreye-Boamante, wants Ghanaians to minimize their criticism of the nation's current economic difficulties. He says entrenched complaints would only worsen the economic problems and make it hard to attract investments. He, however, wants government to cut down on its expenditure to address the current economic slump.
Though the economic downturn is a global phenomenon, there have been intense public outcry in the management of the Ghanaian economy. The government has struggled to quell the growing anxiety of citizens. However, Right Reverend Professor Joseph Obreye-Boamante fears constant denigration puts the economy in a negative light to affect investor confidence. He was speaking at an event to climax the centenary anniversary celebration of the Asante Presbytery in Kumasi.
Ghana has become very difficult, but I also know that the whole world has become very difficult. I know that things are very difficult, and Ghana to see home. But Ghana will be brain educated to know that there is a serious world crisis. Because Ghana and media politics. the opposition now, the more opposition now, you notice when you move was no, be young goods. Some kind of politics, and at least for those of us who are educated, it doesn't convince us.
Professor Mante, however, asked the government to proffer solutions to the economic challenges quickly.
I did my plan. Mr. What kind of form is it? And no man, you will be one more, you can. Now, sir, pass a young Casagana, you call media soon. Now you go and moving, you go and moving more. The more you can negative things about our country, the more the prices of things will go up. Because there is no investor who will seriously take you seriously. As I know, because what can was it, she can't pay.
Meanwhile, Minister for Trades and Industry, Alan Kwadwo Tremantin, entreats Ghanaians to exercise patience as the government seeks solution to the economic challenges. He assures the government is doing its best to salvage the situation.
Our President, so we are in a crisis. So the issue is not about being in crisis. It's about finding the solutions out of the crisis. I said, you pick one, you be first ready, she shall be guaquem, now your frisa, and which they mean. Now, dear, meaning, say, Munia, say, you go super. Be a group, be a Namonti and car. Yes, you refi, and answer, we do not have empathy for the people of this country. And your cross, you know, your bush of one, you will be. It is our team, and then we did not catch them, we did not simply catch them. The
centenary celebration, which started in 2021, involved cleanups, blood donation exercises, award ceremony, and a candlelight procession. The theme is 100 years of evangelistic and ecclesiastical work in Asante, the past, the present, and the future. Asafohene Achamfo Asafobuache Ajimon Bunsu pledged to donate a parcel of land for the Presbytery's centenary commemorative hospital project. The Presbytery is contributing to socio-economic development through the establishment of secular schools, healthcare facilities, among others. Mona Lisa Frimpon reporting.
Now, contractors, laborers, and merchants of building materials are lamenting the hikes in prices of cement, nail, and other building materials. Within this year alone, the increments in cement prices, most especially, have slowed some construction projects and adversely affected value chain actors. Nana Boachi Dankwa Yadom has the rest of the details.
The high increase in building materials, particularly cement, is affecting labor costs. Today in the Ashanti region, contractors and some owners of cement factories share their plight with us.
The price per 50-kilogram bag of cement currently sells at 95 Ghana cedis from about 50 Ghana cedis at the beginning of the year. Elvis Osei Safo is the CEO of July 08 Cement Company in Kumasi. He says increases in building materials is a combination of factors, including sharp depreciation of the cedi and the cost of fuel.
We are bearing the brands, the customers too are facing it. I worry a lot about myself, as well as my customers and my workers. Now we have stopped thinking about profits. We are thinking about survival. We are thinking about how to float. We know this may pass, this too shall pass, but we don't know when. Because let's say your salary was 5,000 in a month, even back in January. 5,000 in a month, you could buy maybe 100 bags per month. Now 5,000, you will buy, what's the price now? 100 cedis. So you're buying 50 bags.
Laborers working on a construction site in the Echimakwauma district expressed displeasure on how the hike in cement prices is affecting them. Eric Boateng, also a construction laborer for several years, says coming by a job is a challenge.
These days, we don't get work because contractors use their money for cement and other materials which are expensive. If you don't accept the little they give you, the job can be taken away from you.
Mary Owusu, who is putting up a building, is displeased some landlords have increased rent, citing rising cost of cement as a factor. She wants the government to intervene.
Cement, now you're 30 cedi.
Cement used to be sold at 30 cedis, but it has now jumped to 92 cedis. Government must do something about it. We are unable to rent houses.
Reporting for JoyNews, Nana Boachedankwe Yadom, Abeview.
Residents of Sawa in the Ashanti region have been handed a mechanized borehole to address an acute water challenge. The water project under the benevolence of the Universal Hospitals Group is to help solve the water needs of the community, which previously depended on a stream. Mohimintoya has more on the following report.
The Universal Hospitals Group was contracted by the Ministry of Health to construct the Infectious Disease Center in the Sewia community. The yet-to-be-commissioned facility is one of the several infectious treatment centers constructed as part of the government's COVID-19 management plan. Sewia, until now, relied on water from the Nkamfro and other streams, as well as hand-dug wells. But thanks to the Universal Hospitals Group, the community can now have a reliable water source. Nana Safo Champon is a weird Jasehene. He says the project will serve nearby school children.
Yansu yamfiani tu sutrene so ni akonumbi hospital kura so ya SSC ahoho nyina esa bebaha enti so mo bebaha no ensuo ho ba be de ne nyakopo adaro mo mudi wo ya maye de na gese ye neja ne yahye enti emfaso de eso aboy enkankan ne yesukufo nkolai.
This is one of several gifts from the company. Chief Executive Frederick Amisa tells JoyNews funding for the project came from the company's profit following the construction of the infectious center.
Universal Hospitals Group constructed a containment center as part of the regional hospital project. And as a socially responsive company, we decided to put this project here. So what township we saw needed some support when it comes to the water delivery system. So out of our good faith, we decided to plant a water system that can serve up to 250 households. And where we are standing is strategically located in the school to help the school kids also get good water during classes hours. So UAG, it's our strategy that wherever we find ourselves, we leave footprints, not only technical and project footprints, but social footprints everywhere we go.
From Sewia in the Ashanti region for JoyNews, Oiminteria reporting.
Organizers of the Kumipreko Reloaded demonstration say the objective was met despite not having the targeted numbers. So we ask, were you part of the demonstration, especially if you're one of those who have been complaining?
I wasn't in Accra when the demonstration was going on. If I was, I would join. I would have ensured that I make my concerns known because the cost of living has become unbearable.
I knew about the demonstration, but I couldn't partake because my knee aches, and that didn't permit me.
Midnight into minya dia metimi achi enu omo achi sa me ko bi ba man kwachi sa because I
am happy I was part of the demonstration because I think the president has simply refused to listen to our concerns.
In fact, I saw her by Papa, Solim will be mad because he can't afford your bread.
Demonstration no more in crowd. Me, I see the kind of we are not angry enough.
I couldn't join the demonstration because I wasn't in the capital. But I am happy people could join on my behalf.
Well, that's all for the news. For more, log on to www.majoyonline.com. My name is Pakwesi Shandoff. Do enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much for staying with us, Mapito Sividi.
Yes, Benjamin Akakpo.
We're about to dig into the papers, right?
Yes, we are. And yesterday you had a very interesting conversation.
How did you know I was about to go to that?
Because you always talk about yourself. So I expected it. So I wanted to beat you to your own game.
Are you suggesting I'm narcissistic?
Am I suggesting?
Hey, you've delivered some punchlines this morning. We should record them and play them back.
Please. Let's talk about your conversation yesterday. Would you like to share
So
mine
and Winston's, of course. And it was quite an interesting bit. So those I interacted with, especially because the Zoom thing wasn't working from where I was. Ayim Dake, who is with the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, he said quite some interesting things. One, there should be no additional burden of taxes in the 2023 budget. We shouldn't have that. Two, the e-levy as it stands now is a nuisance tax, according to him, and it must be reduced in terms of percentage to something below 1%. That was what he felt. He felt 1D, 1F had failed because, I mean, we're talking about now exporting so much on the back of the president's last address. Yet looking at our imports of 10.8 plus billion, it makes no sense. There's a cure, and 1D, 1F should have been that cure. You remember yesterday when Paul Grave was in the studio, he made mention of the fact that they had put up almost 200 of such industries. What has been the result of these industries? So those were some of the major points made. And I think he also mentioned tellingly that in his lifetime, I mean, these times are some of the worst he's noted, and that in the last 30 years, this is the worst economic situation he has witnessed. So those were some of the thoughts. Kukwa, CEO of the Clay Group, also joined with similar thoughts, and especially on the taxes, that there should be no further imposition because she represents small business, and small businesses are bleeding.
They're really suffering,
So, I mean, those were some of the, in summary, some of the thoughts from those I interacted with.
In conclusion. All right, let's go into the papers, and joining us for the newspaper review is energy analyst, Mr. Kojo Poku. Mr. Kojo Poku, good morning. Mr. Poku, good morning.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Ben, I can see you always have a nice addition to your blue glasses.
Always, always, always. It is the way
a way to brighten your studio.
Yes, please. So I darken it a bit. She brightens it a bit. I don't want to mention brands. I would have mentioned certain soft drinks. Way kakra. Then,
Coca-Cola, kakra, Fanta, kakra.
You, Mr. Poku. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us. Mapito, would you like to start with the Ghanaian Times, or maybe just before you get there? I'm sure you caught what I said that Ayim Dake had mentioned as we meditated on the pre-budget review. Did you catch them?
Yes, I did.
Do you have any very quick reactions to them?
Well, yeah. For me, I think you remember the bit that you said about the 1D1F not solving the export problem. You remember we discussed it the last time we spoke, where you said that the trade minister met the industry, and I said that the focus of the 1D1F should have been as exactly what the gentleman you spoke to said. It was supposed to basically be a solution to a problem. We are just putting up industries that we don't know what it's solving. So if somebody's going to put up an industry, it was supposed to solve some of these our import problems. On taxes, I'll be very surprised if anybody wants to look at taxes in the 2023 budget. In terms of e-levy, I have always put up solutions to what can be done to make the e-levy much better, and I don't think it's being done. But I think, yes, a reduction to maybe 1% for better compliance will be a good at this stage.
All right, so let's get into the Ghanaian Times, and the big story there on page 18 is that pre-tertiary teachers abandon classrooms nationwide, and there's a picture of the school there. It's empty. I was speaking to Anna Sabit yesterday, and he was telling me what's happening on the grounds. And I mean, the children were playing football, you know. It was just like a terrible, terrible sight, especially it's a Monday morning. We're starting a new week, and then you just see these children playing football. Some were trying to get home, but they were worried, like, who am I going to meet when I get to the house? Because mom and dad are at work. So we hope that problem will be solved. But let's go to page 16. And Ghana committed to increasing share of renewable energy. That is according to President Akufo-Addo, who has assured the global community of Ghana's full commitment to increasing the country's share of renewable energy in the energy mix. Speaking at the event organized by Bloomberg Philanthropies on the sidelines of COP 27, we'll continue to increase the share of renewable energy in our electricity generation mix, as well as explore the options of hydrogen gas and other clean energy sources to meet our energy needs. According to him, the president, energy transition has become a global responsibility for us all, especially in view of the impact of climate change and the global energy crisis brought forth by the Russian invasion of Ukraine. He continues to say that Ghana's position on energy transition is to continue the responsible exploitation of our natural resources for our development and transition at our own pace. The government of Ghana is mindful of the actions of the developed countries in relation to energy transition and their effects on us. Our two stories, Mr. Poku, any reactions to that? That Ghana is committed to increasing share of renewable energy, and that's according to the president. And the other one is that pre-tertiary teachers abandon classrooms nationwide.
Well, for me, I think I have been trying to get my head around the strike by the teachers, and I still don't seem to understand it. I honestly don't get the union and the strike they are on. I have tried to understand it, and like I said, I can't. You work for an organization. The CEO or the shareholders of that organization appoint a new CEO, and the workers decide to go on strike because they don't like the new CEO. Why? And look, the least I say about that, the better. I honestly don't get it. And I mean, the government should sit with them and probably issue this strike thing by the teachers is becoming a bit too much, because every time there is a school vacation, we are going to go into a new school year, we tend to see these strikes. When there's a strike for allowances, when there's a strike for certain things that is to your benefit, that I can understand. But when you're striking on the appointment of a new General Secretary of the Ghana Education Service, why is that? What ulterior motive do you have? Okay, let me quickly move on to the renewable.
Maybe before you move on, Kojo Poku. So is it unthinkable? Is it completely unheard of? In other jurisdictions, I have seen same. You talk about the shareholders or stakeholders putting forward someone, but this is basically government, or this is basically, you know, some proposition from the education circles. But must it sit well with the workers? That's the question. Who are going to work under this person? I mean, it could impact, if they don't agree with him, it could impact his tenure. Then again, we want to look at the fact that all through, there has always been a teacher in that position. So when they say that for the first time we're having something like this and we don't agree with it, are they completely wrong?
Yes. The fact that there's always been a teacher and the power that be feel that let's change things up, it doesn't make it is not. Look, you have a contract of work. Your contract of work gives you certain obligation to your employer. Okay? One of the contract of work that gives the obligation to your employer doesn't state that you can object to who the employer appoints as your boss. You could disagree with it, but the fact that you are striking and not going to work, for me, that's the bit I don't get. So if it has to be a teacher and the shareholder, the government feels that this time it has to be somebody else, what's your business? Do what you have to do. Let him do what he has to do. In the course of his work, if he's doing something that you don't agree with, then strike on those specific things the person wants to do. But to strike on his appointment, I've never heard that before. Now, like I said, let me move on to the renewable energy. I think that the renewable energy thing has been a talk shop. We have the president say that we are going to have a certain percentage of renewable energy in our energy mix by 2023. I can't remember the exact percentage, but we have done nothing in the energy space in the last 6 years to reach that goal that the president stated in 2017. Now, we had the energy transition. The Energy Transition Committee met. They had several meetings, did cross-country retreats and all that. Then the Energy Transition document came out. Did you see the bill that accompanied the transition bill? Some billions of dollars that we need to achieve our energy transition. And I asked myself, that's not realistic. Okay, so for the energy transition to be realistic, we need to set ourselves goals that we can achieve as a nation. Going to COP27 and asking, like the president did the last time, that the developed nations should do their share of money that they promised did not give it. They're not going to give you any money. They don't have the money to give. Okay, so what we could do is think global and act local.
Yeah.
What does that mean? It means that the world is doing their bit to save the climate. What can Ghana do? By thinking global, we have the climate change in mind. Locally, what we could do is plant more trees. So we will be a net absorption of CO2.
We've had a tree planting drive. I mean, we've had, I think, back to back.
We should do more. It's the only cheapest thing we can do. We cannot go and start cutting fossil fuel. We cannot put taxes on fossil fuel companies. In Ghana, we can't afford that. The Germans and the Swedish and all those countries can afford all those talk. We can't afford it. We cannot do it. So the only cheapest thing we can do is to plant trees. That's the only thing.
Right.
All this talk of trying to change cars to compressed natural gas, all this talk of this, we can't afford it. Look, we can't even afford the basic things in this country, my brother. How do you expect me to now all of a sudden try and invest all these billions of dollars to change the way of life when nobody's giving us that money? There is carbon credits, okay? I have not seen any project in Ghana able to access these carbon credits. So the developed nations talk the talk, but they don't follow up with the act after these meetings. Because I remember when the president spoke the last time, he mentioned in COP26, he mentioned that they promised us so much money that they were going to give help us with the transition that we need to do. And that money never came. They don't intend to give you any money. They don't have the money to give you.
Right. Let me just re-echo. So from yesterday, as that meeting in Sharm el-Sheikh, happened, Antonio Guterres, the UN Secretary General, actually said this. I have just warned global leaders at COP27. We are on a highway to climate hell with our foot on the accelerator. Our planet is fast approaching tipping points that will make climate chaos irreversible. We need urgent climate action. That is what he said, and that is what he tweeted as well. I found it interesting, though, even as I get into the Daily Graphic. I don't need you to give a response on this, but our president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, was meant to speak on 5 thematic areas, including what Ghana is doing in terms of our water bodies, oceans, and the rest. And looking at what Galamsey has done to our water bodies, even taking out the impact of climate change, I was just wondering, really, what we would have to say on that front. But anyway.
Well, a quick one. You know, in Galamsey, there are two types of Galamsey going on in this country. There is the forest cutting Galamsey and then the mineral Galamsey. If you go and see in the Bono area and those forest reserve areas, what is happening in our forest, people cutting down our trees, that Galamsey, you weep. We are all concentrating on the mineral Galamsey, and then we think that is the bad.
No,
see what they're doing to our forest.
We've not lost track of that because, I mean, in recent times, the conversation has also, reared its head when it comes to what even happens, the vegetation, when they, in fact, some information we pick is that some of these people are cutting, corners both ways. So when they take off the timber, they actually process it for sale, okay? They benefit from that, and then they also, destroy the land with mining. So it's a two-pronged affair. I agree with
you.
Yeah. Let's get into the Daily Graphic now. Motorway deteriorates, patched portions rot away. For the life of me, Kojo, I don't know how many times we're going to say this. And Nkrumah gave us a concrete motorway.
Yeah.
That's the best you can find anywhere in the world. Concrete. And we decide to patch it with all kinds of other things. Asphalt and all kinds. And it also makes the motorway very bumpy.
Yeah.
And so when you're going, you will just be hearing. I remember this time I was going and I felt, and I realized, no, it wasn't that my tire had any issue. It was just that each time you go after, that
there's some, you
hear those sounds. You may mistake it for. It will even make it difficult for you if you actually had a problem because you may think it's just the motorway. But despite sustained public outcry, the 19-kilometer Accra-Tema motorway continues to deteriorate and pose grave danger to motorists. 2 years after the Daily Graphic began to highlight the deteriorating state of the 56-year-old motorway, potholes, bitumen patches, erosion, and hardened lumps from spilt concrete are still posing a danger and discomfort to drivers and passengers who commute on it on a daily basis. Now, a month-long monitoring by the Daily Graphic as a follow-up to similar exercises in the past revealed that the situation had only become worse. On 4 occasions, while monitoring activities on the motorway for this story series, the Daily Graphic came across vehicular accidents, just monitoring, one of which resulted in injuries and the victims rushed to hospital. Meanwhile, the team observed that the National Road Safety Authority had installed a solar-powered electronic radar speed sign on the motorway. The speed sign was installed to make drivers aware of the level of their speed as they drove to help them to keep the required speed on the motorway. I saw a photo of that in one of the papers or on social media in recent times. But patching concrete with bitumen and all of that, what's your take, Kojo? Quick one there.
It's sad. It's very sad. 60 years ago, somebody built a road, put iron rods in the bottom part and put concrete on top. That road served us well for well over 50 years. In the last 10 years, you have seen that the lazy approach to solving that problem. Some time back, you see that when there was a patch, they will cut it and they will put the iron rods in but they stopped it. And I've seen that they are trying to use bitumen. As a hot country, bitumen is not for us. What we are supposed to have on our roads, if we had kept it up from day one, is that all our roads are supposed to be concrete. Because what you have in bitumen is just basically rubber and aggregate. So when it's hot, the bitumen melts. And when you have vehicular traffic on the road, the melting, that's why sometimes you see an asphalt, but it's bent or made in some funny shapes on the road. Because it's not the right thing to use in a hot climate, especially when temperatures soar up against a certain degrees Celsius. So it's sad what they are doing to the motorway. This brings us back to the initial concept of tolls. When there was a toll on the Tema motorway, the concept of toll on Tema motorway was that you collect a toll to fix that road the toll is on. A toll was not supposed to be collected, put in the central fund and spent anyhow. No. When a road is tolled, it's being tolled because the road needs maintenance. And that toll being collected for the users of that road that money will be used to fix that road. We decided to get to a point as a nation where we started even collateralizing our toll receivables and using it for other things and collecting the toll and paying the bank UBA for that money. Okay, so we've lost, look, as a nation, we've really lost our way in a lot of ways. And one of the things that we can see today, the lazy approach to solutions, is what you see on the Tamamoto Way. Very sad, my brother.
Let's wrap with these stories. So, Akufo-Addo Sunak launched Forest and Climate Leaders Partnership. That story is on page 20. Of course, Rishi Sunak initially wasn't going to be at COP27 in Egypt, but there was a U-turn after public outcry. Be moderate in expenditure. Press be moderator to government. That's on page 16. And there's also regional minister backtracks on Ramsar site demolitions. Let's just go to page 16 very quickly. And just to touch on that bit about being moderate, the press be moderator, I want you to share with me what you think. So there are 322, that is our contingent to Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt, Ghanaians and counting, who are there. People have raised the question about 322 Ghanaians for one climate change program. How many did other countries take there, for example? And these are things I would like to digest. And we've been told that some of these people funded themselves. What's the source? Who funded them? And all of a sudden, Ghanaians seem to have, most Ghanaians, because while all of us are concerned, very few do you see putting themselves out there campaigning. So all of a sudden, these people developed interest enough, maybe not to go to Qatar 2022, but to spend good money to go to Egypt and support the cause or whatever it is they're going to do. I don't know. I have my own questions. I don't know what you think about that situation. You can also add homeowners within the Sakumo on a Ramsar site heaved a sigh of relief for the Greater Accra Regional Security Council backs down on its earlier decision to demolish their buildings. Hundreds of buildings in the core zone were marked for demolition, but at a stakeholders meeting last Sunday, the regional minister, Henry Quartey, said, quote, I want to say here and now that not a single completed building will be demolished. And so that is a backtrack, according to the Daily Graphic, on this bit. Quick reactions to this. We're done with the Daily Graphic.
You are saying that people are not, look, the journalists should keep an eye on the number of the contingents that government will sponsor to Qatar 2022. It would surprise you, amaze you, and shock you out of your boots. 322 to Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt for climate change. My brother, this issue of traveling, anybody that knows me knows how it just basically puts me in a bad mood. As a nation, we travel too much. We heard Nanado in February or March tell us that there's a ban on travel unless express approval from the chief of staff. That never worked. In the energy sector that I monitor, there has been, in the last 6 months, Cape Town, Nigeria, Dubai, this, that. And it's not only one or two people going, my brother. Petroleum Commission, National Petroleum Authority, GMPC, the ministry, all the boss, everybody is going. And they travel first class. They don't travel economy. So one day, we should publish the cost to the nation, both state-owned enterprises and GOG, Government of Ghana budget, on travels within a year. We will all be shocked out of our boots. Pop that with what is going to happen in 2022, Qatar, that Ghana has qualified. Hey, you will see brand ambassadors and all those people also sponsored. What they are going to do, I have no idea. But we will get there. You will see the numbers that will come out and you will see the budget that Ghana will spend. In this state that we are in this state, that milk that cost 12 cedis is now 48 cedis. Today, somebody will spend government money, fly first class and go to Qatar.
Right.
Don't worry, we'll get there.
Ayo.
All right, so let's go to graphic business. Use ruthless approach to stabilize economy. That's according to the former IMF advisor, Dr. Emmanuel Kuma, who has called for a ruthless approach to expenditure cuts to help create breathing space for public finances and set in motion a credible process to economic recovery. He said that the spending cuts must be immediate and targeted at reducing the size of governments to create a lean, mean and efficient body that reflects the austerity that the economic challenges have imposed. Someone else who is calling for the government's size to be cut is Professor Peter Quarter on the 2023 budget. If you go to myjoynews.com, he suggested some fiscal measures to be included in the 2023 budget to help shore up revenue for the government. According to The Economist, the country country's physical space is currently in a bad state, thus would need to innovate revenue measures to stabilize the economy. As we're getting ready for the budget reading, Mr. Poku, some are calling for a ruthless approach to stabilize the economy. What are you calling for?
Well, it's the only thing we have, the reduction in our expenditure. Our expenditure should only be about 5 to 10% above revenue. At most 15% above revenue. Shouldn't be more than 15% above revenue.
That reminds me, because just to interject briefly, the last time we put forward a budget, it had to be slightly revised, but we're looking at 100.05 billion in revenue, yet our expenses or expenditure was standing at around 137 billion Ghana cedis. So you see where that is.
The last budget was 150 billion.
It was 137 initially.
No, it was
so
100.0 137.
Pardon me.
Say it again.
I'm saying 100.05 in terms of revenue, and then 137.
The 137 is the revised.
Yes.
Yes, but the initial was more than 137.
Okay, point made.
Okay, so what I'm saying is that even the 105 was phantom, was not realistic. Because in the previous years, you had only achieved 65 billion in terms of revenue. Mm-hmm. So there was no way you're going to collect 40 billion extra the following year. It wasn't possible. Okay? The highest we did that everybody popped champagne was 70 billion that we said, hey, we've done well because we've basically been able to go up. So our realistic ever collected revenue was 70 billion. Okay? So you coming in to say that you're going to do 105 was not realistic. It wasn't possible. You can't achieve it. So the realistic target of the previous year that we know of is 70 billion. Now, you can't come and say that you're going to do twice your revenue in expenditure. That is the problem. So today, it's not that you come and tell us that you do 105 and then I'm talking about 10 to 15% of the non-realistic revenue. No, your actuals. When you do budget, there's actuals, and in your actuals, there's projected and actuals. So you have your previous year budget. When you have your actuals, you don't look at the projected and do the next year budget based on projected, because your variance will show you up. What you do is you look at your actuals and now say that 70 billion is my actual. What my expenditure should be is 15% of my actuals. So in this case, it will be about 85, 90 billion at best being your expenditure the subsequent year. So what we should have in 2023, if we're tighten our budget, is to look at trying to increase revenue. Because if you increase revenue, then if you benchmark your expenditure at 15% to your revenue,
right,
the more your revenue goes up, you have the space of another 15% based on your actuals, not the projection. And that is where we get it wrong. So yes, look, I don't expect anybody to try and increase taxes. We have room to collect more. There are the unbanked, there is the informal, there is a lot of space to be able to go and collect. People don't have the money. So I think it's the wrong time to do that anyway. But there are big corporations and big companies that have been stealing from us for a long time. All these rice importers, sugar importers, and all these big businesses that have been stealing from us. Let's tighten those ones and get that right. Then looking at the budget, again, we talked about the contingency to Sharm el-Sheikh. We talked about contingency that will be going to Qatar. All these things should be scrapped. We are in dire situation, my brother. And I don't think that there should be more than 20 people from Ghana accompanying Black Star to go from government. If anything more than 20 is a problem.
I guess unless maybe they are funding themselves. And like I asked, what is the source? Because sometimes, they are funding themselves. And you find out that funding themselves actually turns out to be something else. But let's quickly look at the final newspaper and the New Crusading Guide very quickly. Ghana committed to increasing share of renewable energy. That's according to President Akufo-Addo. There's also Akufo-Addo's Sunak Launch Forest and Climate Leaders Partnership. I've touched on that. Access Bank builds capacity of SMEs to utilize digitalization. There's also GMA wants medical school in each of the 16 regions. That's something I would like you to react to. And then finally, so I'd like you to react to the GMA's call for a medical school in each of the 16 regions, and CD fall, rising cost, collapsing newspapers, over 600% price increase of some inputs since January. In fact, being Catholic, the Catholic standard, which hasn't increased in a long time, has now also moved up. The Daily Graphic has the Ghanaian Times, the Times Corporation, everywhere prices are increasing. Quick reactions?
Well, I honestly don't see why we need a medical school in each region. It's not feasible. We can't afford it. I don't know if the GMA are going to build it themselves. They have money. They are professionals who say that they don't have the money to build it. Government don't have the money to build it either. So
all right. So quick interjection. They are saying it would not only afford many people in deprived communities the opportunity to pursue medicine, but help increase the number of doctors in the country and serve their communities, but would also help retain doctors in underserved regions. That is a reality. How do you react?
Oh, I honestly don't get it. There are doctors, the same doctors who complain of standing. Look, there are problems. The doctors have priorities. They have better problems. They have bigger problems. Let's try and resolve those problems. I've always talked about quality of service. They are not paid well. Their allowances, their condition of service, those are the issues. Instead of trying to bring more people into the port under the circumstances, why don't we solve the problem in the port first? Okay, because doctors will complain about working conditions. Let's resolve that. Let's resolve the whole medical thing, than trying to build hospitals and bringing more people into that field when they are going to come and meet the same standards and not be happy with the standard. So let's look at improving the condition of service, their salaries, their allowances. Let them work better. Then if you are to expand these things and bring more people in, I will agree. But for me, I think for now, there are bigger problems in the health sector. That building hospitals in regions is not one of them. In the state that we are in, I don't think the man who said that has realized that we are in a dire situation. The other one what was the other one?
So it had to do with the CDs fall, rising cost, and the collapse of newspapers.
Well, newspapers, look, I love reading printing paper, but the point is that if they don't also put in news that will make people be educated and they keep publishing political news, okay? In the front pages, it's before journalists will set the stage and publish news and the politicians will run after it trying to basically react to it. Today, the print media follows the politicians and print what the politicians are doing, which is wrong. I have a friend who's an old journalist. He said, Kojo, in the past, we the journalists, we had more money than the politicians. So we printed what we want and we didn't care what they say. Today, most of the newspapers are finding it difficult to survive. So they are only trying to look at sensations. And I don't blame them because now we have social and digital media, which they are competing with. Okay, so look, it's sad that the print media is going through what it's going through, but I think they should also look within and evolve into a much better space to educate people so that they can be, if I'm buying something educative, I'll pay more. But if I look in the front pages and it's this person did this or this person did that, then people will just look away in terms of people don't really have the heart to read about politics these days.
All right, just to wrap from my end, the new crusading guide, Chief warns encroaches on Akotoshi lands after court ruling. That's an interesting development because today, even in the news, we're talking about this place where some rituals have been performed to ban anyone who would want to get into Galamsey on that land. But there's also Ghana committed to promoting renewable energy, President Akufo-Addo. And then Odike apologizes to Otumfuo over Galamsey comment. Do you remember that
yes.
comment, infamous, so to speak, on Oyerpa FM? He has apologized. Last time I saw him, he was joining demonstrators on Saturday for the Kume Preko Reloaded. Quick reactions, and it's done from my end.
Well, yeah, it's good. He has a good relationship with the Menchia. LDK is not an ordinary citizen of Kumasi. He's a senior citizen of Kumasi. And I mean, if you are from Kumasi, you are from Kumasi. Ikrura is Ikrura. You can't go around thinking that you can live in Accra and not go back to Kumasi. Nobody can. I don't know if anybody can do that. That you said, I'm from Kumasi, but I won't go there again. I'm going to fight with Menchia and come and live in Accra. It's not possible. I mean, there are so many things that will require you to go back to the lovely town of Kumasi. For me,
but the question is, should people be compelled to apologize over what comments when they feel rightly so, and if it is not insulting? To say that you've been banished and all of that, you can't even come to, I mean, based on what powers
there's culture and there's tradition. We have Ashantis, we have our tradition. Okay, and the traditions are very simply stipulated. You can make your comment, you can say all the things you want to say without having to go against our tradition. What he did was that he went against tradition. It wasn't what he said, it's going against tradition. Okay, Odike could have made his comment without referring to the stool. You can make your comment without referring to the stool.
Right.
You can't mention the stool. Is the stool? That's where the tradition is. It's very simple. Make your comment, leave the stool out of it. That's simple. So the other thing that you mentioned was what?
So, I mean, I just read out some other headlines. Chiefs warning encroachers about land after court ruling.
The ritual bit, I think, is very important. You know, back in the day, in the olden days, there were days set aside that Daboni Yonkunsiyo.
Right.
And those were things that were done in the olden days to help the environment breathe. So you go to the rivers and and there's a day that's set aside that nobody goes, so that the environment will have a day to itself. Right? And all these things were said. Today, in modern day, because of Christianity and all these things, people don't believe in these things. Oh, there's nothing there, I can go. And people are actually before. You can't even go onto the riverside on certain days. How much more go into the river to start spoiling the river? Because we revere the rivers as gods. All these people don't believe in these things anymore. So I don't know what the rituals are going to do. The only things human beings believe these days is if somebody just dropped dead in front of them. If not, nobody will believe it.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Kojo Poku, and he's an energy analyst. He was joining us for the news.
One quick thing, Ben, before I let you guys go. There is some disturbing issues coming up in Kaswa, and I hear the district commander in Kaswa with the senior Breku magistrate. There's something I'm looking into. A friend of mine over the weekend went through a very bad situation in Kaswa, and the Kaswa district commander, I'm going to find and go there, and I'll brief you the next time we speak on what the development is. I've heard that there's something really bad going on there.
Well, it's good you're investigating, so let's do that, and then we'll see what we can, do about that situation moving forward. Thank you so much, Kojo Poku.
Thank you.
Up next, we have sports coming your way, and there's a whole lot to look forward to. Do stay. Thank you for staying with us on the AM show. Time now for us to get into our big stories. And the main one, the first one we're getting into, Ghana's economy. We'll have experts discuss how government can make things better, so to speak. Yesterday, of course, we had that pre-budget conversation, and a lot of them, from Guta to the AGI to industry, shared their thoughts. Well, joining us for that conversation, we have Professor John Gachi, who is Dean, University of Cape Coast School of Business. We also have Charles Appiah, Executive Secretary, Edum Business Community. Also joining the conversation, Alfred Amofa. He is CEO of Western Daredale. That is the One District, One Factory project. All of them join the conversation. Gentlemen, just to ensure that all of you can hear me and that I can hear from you, a very good morning.
Good morning.
I just heard Professor Gachi, I believe. Can I hear from my other guests? All right, so we'll try to work the connections. But Professor Gachi, so even as we talk about the economy, I'm sure you followed the Kume Preko demonstration, and yes, people were complaining about the very same economy. I'd like to find out from you, between the last time we had an interaction, which is, I think, over a month ago, and now, what is the picture you see when it comes to our economy? The cedi has appreciated against the dollar. That is very important. It's still hovering around 13 cedis. There's also the inflationary rate. We don't know what October will bring in terms of, because we don't have that figure yet. But when you look at the economy, the last time we spoke and now, are we doing any better? Are we faring any better in any respect?
Well, it's difficult to say that we are doing well. All the indicators point to distressed economy and calling for pragmatic measures to be able to turn things around. I think that is what we should be discussing about the economy. Momentary respite for the currency is not anything to celebrate. It doesn't change anything in the price window for goods and services in the country. So I think that we should be focusing on what we should do to ensure that our economy churn out outcomes that we expect to inure to revenue generation, to inure to lower food prices, lower transport costs for households and workers, and also to moderate the business environment for our entrepreneurs. That we have not achieved in the last 1 month. And the other aspect is that we have also not achieved policy announcements that resonate with the business environment and the people. That is also lacking now. And that provides a lot of signal that would drive corporate policy and strategy formulation going forward. And that gap ought to be filled as early as possible, because apart from the fiscal calendar for the country, corporate entities have their own calendar going into 2023. We are starving them of the needed policy direction to plan and execute their broad strategies.
Speaking of which, especially as you talk about planning and all of that, we've had our budget reading. Of course, normally you would peg it at November the 15th, per what we know, per what the framework stipulates to have our budget reading. But this year, that is not going to happen, especially on the back of our negotiations with the IMF. How problematic is that? Is it problematic? Is it going to lead to any shocks in our economy, especially for business?
Well, I think it's problematic because as a country, we should show some fidelity to our rules and work within that framework. We do know that per the Public Financial Management Act, let me just say October is the month that Cabinet is supposed to finish up their consideration of the budget.
Right.
If they have any thing that will revise the budget, they make that available to the Finance Minister and the Budget Department of Ministry of Finance to factor into the revision of the budget from Cabinet. Then within 2 weeks after the maximum period of the end of October from Cabinet, the Minister is supposed to now present the revised budget from Cabinet to Parliament for consideration. And Parliament also has up to 31st December to debate on the budget and make sure that they firm up the policy guidance in the budget, the revenue direction, the expenditure framework, and the borrowing agenda of the government and specific programs, projects, and activities that will also inform corporate entities as to how to feed into the budget information. So that is very, very clear. There is no allowance as to whether you can sidestep the calendar provided in the Public Financial Management Act. And the inability to present the budget as scheduled, and that have been followed by all finance ministers in the past, one may say that then the base has not been worked on. That is, Cabinet has not done its work, because if Cabinet has done its work, then there is no need to be using the IMF negotiation as an excuse, because this is not the first time we are going into an IMF program under the 1992 Constitution. the IMF program can be engaged at any point in time and can be factored into the budget at any point in time. We have done that severally. So there's no reason to cite the IMF program as the reason for which we cannot present a budget. That is defeating our public financial management rules.
Right. Thank you for those initial submissions. Just hold for me. Let me also bring in Charles Appiah, Executive Secretary with the Edum Business Community. Let me find out from you. As far as Edum is concerned, we know that, for example, Guta members in the Ashanti region at a point shut their shops. It was replicated in Accra. But what has business been like in recent times? And what would you say the current situation is for you?
All right. Good morning to you and to your viewers. The association is Ashanti Business Owners Association, ABUA.
Right. My apologies for that. My apologies for that.
It's well placed. All right. So the general view of business in Ashanti region, as we all know, price of items are going high. Disposable incomes has also been depleted because of inflation. So generally, sales of items have gone down, and there's economic slowdown within our business market. So basically, this is the outlook of Ashanti businesses, and I think it's replicated itself across the whole country.
And how has that impacted you, especially within the last 6 months, for example, looking at the dollar to CD rate? There was a bit of a joke. I shouldn't call it a joke. It's a serious matter. At the Kumi Preko demonstration, there was a placard hoisted where someone had written that the Bank of Ghana has the dollar rate, but Abochi has the dollar. You know, just to play on the fact that the reality when it comes to business, the pegging of the CD to the dollar and other major currencies is really not so much within the hands of the powers that be. Is that your situation in the last 6 months? How have you coped with the dollar to CD, pegging?
We have earlier indicated how the dollar has affected our working capital. In the early years of 2022, dollar was hovering around 6.5. So if I need $100,000, I need almost about 650,000 Ghana cedis to do that. Today, dollar ranges about 14.5% to a dollar. That means I need about 1.5 million Ghana cedis to get same $100,000.
The Bank of Ghana, pardon my coming in, but the Bank of Ghana, the last time I checked, it pegs the dollar at 13 cedis, just around 13 cedis, a little over 13 cedis to...
Just like you earlier indicated, BOG will have their rates, but the market dictates what rate must be used. If you decide to transact business as of yesterday, rate that was selling in the market was 14.5.
Wow.
So that's the reality on the ground. So these has actually depleted our working capital. And you also know that Bank of Ghana somewhere last month also increased policy rate by 250 basis points. That increases policy rate by 2.5%. And interest rate in bank goes about 30%. And lending is about 35%. That has actually also made cost of borrowing much more higher now as we speak. Fuel prices have gone high beyond the roofs, making everything that concerns our business much more expensive. And you remember in the president's speech, he talked about the market women telling him that people are overhiking prices. And I always say that is not the truth. When you go to the port, as of 2 weeks ago, we're clearing goods at about 100,000 Ghana cedis. As we speak now, it's over 300,000 Ghana cedis.
How long ago was this? How long ago was this when you were clearing for 100,000?
It's about 2 weeks ago. It's about 2 weeks ago.
Wait, hold on. You're telling me 2 weeks ago you were clearing at 100,000 and now you're clearing, similar goods for 300,000 cedis?
That's right.
Wow. What kinds of goods are we talking about?
We are looking at the consumables, the rice, the sugar, the sardines, the daily consumables that we are talking about. These are far, far much more expensive now. And these are also influenced by the forex hikes. Because when you clear your goods and it's indexed in dollars, obviously, when your city is not doing well, prices will obviously go high. So the outlook of businesses is not the best of time for us. So no one takes the pride in increasing prices because we are aware of the situation we are in. But it's the dictates of the economic indicators that influence prices in the market. That is where the situation is now.
Wow, those are some telling, Charles, I see you wanted to wrap. Just do that and then I'll go to Alfred.
What I just want to end up with, the principle of basic business is that a business more obviously will pass on the cost to the final consumer. So if prices are hiking, it means there are some factors influencing that. It's not the businessman overpricing its items. Far from that.
So you disagree with the president when he said that you should be measured in the profits you seek? You disagree with the president?
I won't say absolutely, but the fact is generally goods are high and no one is profiteering, with this situation. We are in Ghana. The only thing we can support ourselves is how best can we make things affordable, at least to achieve the UN, SDG goals, that people can have access to food.
Okay.
So no one wants to do that. If the president probably will avert itself through the current economic challenges, I think you probably will not make that statement again.
Let me bring in Alfred Amofa, who is CEO Western Dedel. It's a one district, one factory beneficiary. Alfred, you have benefited from the one district, one factory program. I just want to find out from you, how have these economic times impacted your output, first of all? Hello, Alfred, can you hear me? All right, so I'll try to we'll try to work the connection again to Alfred Amofa, CEO Western Dedel. It's a one district, one.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Alfred, I can hear you now. Did you get my question?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
You wanted to find out how this situation in the economy has impacted our business.
Yes, please. So first of all, Western Dedel, what do you do? What do you produce?
Yeah, Western Dedel is a giant in the rice, local rice production. We produce rice, we process it, and we market it. So we are a complete value chain specialist in the rice value chain, from cultivation of the raw material to market milled rice. That's what.
Okay, and how big is your output? It's interesting to put it into context, especially as Mr. President has been talking about, reducing our imports and increasing our exports. How much rice do you produce, let's say in a year? I think we're still struggling with the connection to Alfred. Maybe we can just pick his sound and hopefully, or maybe reach him via the phone lines. Maybe, just maybe. But it would be interesting to get some of those other details when it comes to their productivity or production levels and what the impact has been. But let me come back to Professor Gachi. So looking at some of the dynamics, I want to quickly go back to the CD dollar and other hard currency pegging. Like it's Charles has mentioned, the Bank of Ghana can have its rate. Just this morning or so, I saw a pop-up on Twitter alerting me to its rates. It's just around 13 cedis. Yet, when you go out there, and some Forex Bureau have been shut, but when you go out there, it's a different story altogether. You heard Charles make mention of the fact that just 2 weeks ago, the duty they had to pay was around 100,000. Now it's about 300,000. I believe it is dollars. Charles, correct me if I'm wrong. Were you speaking dollars or cedis?
Oh, this is cedis.
All right, so 300,000 cedis, from 100,000 to 300,000 cedis. What is your take on this? Are we getting the monetary policy right? Are we getting the actions to stymie the dollar against the cedi right? Prof.
Well, I think there are about three issues there. The Bank of Ghana has what we call indicative rate. And the problem we face is that the indicative rate, the difference between the indicative rate and the market rate that people face on daily basis is too distant away. and that the Bank of Ghana must recognize. So that is where some people make the mistake and assume that that is a sort of policy exchange rate by the Bank of Ghana. But the Bank of Ghana actually provides indicative rate. But the Bank of Ghana should get closer to the market so that the difference between its indicative rate and the market rate that the people face on daily basis will not be too deep, too wide away. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that the whole thing is about demand and supply. So if your indicative rate is around 13 cedis, but you don't have the ability to supply the volume that the market needs, then that shortage would drive up price in the real market situation for people who need the dollar that you don't have the ability to supply. So that is the other thing happening, and we need to look at those factors. What we should do to ensure that if there is an indicative rate, we are able to supply a certain quantity that will not bring too much difference in the market. So these are the, I believe, the observable challenges that we have. So one cannot say that the monetary policy situation is totally bad. I believe the monetary policy should be anchored in an effective fiscal policy and a good productive environment. The monetary policy cannot be standing alone. That is a challenge we are facing in Ghana. Our productive efficiency is low. And in addition to that, our fiscal management undermines monetary policy effectiveness. So until that cordial and effective coordination takes place between fiscal management and monetary policy formulation and management, monetary policy will always seem to be underperforming.
So it's interesting you make these points because Mr. President in his address on the economy also touched on the bit about reducing our imports, increasing our exports. Interestingly, even the products, three of our major products that we export, I'm talking about cocoa, I'm talking about gold, I'm talking about crude, have depreciated by about 0.9% from the latest data that we have. So speaking of the level of production, you say, quote, productive efficiency is low in our country. But it's not something that we can just, industrializing is not something that we can just, in one fell swoop execute. It would take years, if not maybe a decade. So how do we go about it in the short term to achieve some of those targets? What do we do?
Well, it's all about economic management leadership. We are aware 30 years ago about dwindling nature of our productivity. We are aware about 30 years ago that we are relying more on import. We are aware, if not 30 years, about 20 years ago, that even most of our staple, we are becoming net importers of our staple food. The question we should ask ourselves is that what policy have we put in place to address that? There is none. So that is the beginning point. Last year, when you were discussing about the currency, you heard the same thing, that long term. When would the long term start? Long term start with leadership now. So if we don't have anything on the table, dealing with the fact that we wouldn't want to import 400 million worth of tomatoes from a desert country like Burkina Faso, then why is the policy to address that? That is where the leadership comes in. So I think all boiled down on the leadership in managing the economy. We have not seen that leadership very clearly in identifying selected imported items that we want to take hold of them and ensure that we don't import them. Even if we are going to import them, we don't import them in that magnitude. I listened to a lecture recently where the presenter from Israel indicated that for them, 95% of their food items are domestically produced and 5% imported. What is our policy? So that is where the issue has to be tackled. Let the government showcase the policies. What the item we are importing in Aboso Kai and Co., how many of them that we think we can fabricate in Ghana, coordinating and collaborating with KNUSC, for example, and magazines and co in the country? Where is the policy? I think that is the question we should be asking. When those policies are there, the next level is questioning the commitment strategy in terms of implementation. Then we know we are following a roadmap. But as it is, we only come together when we are facing challenge, and we try to talk about this issue of long term, and there's no beginning point of the long term. So that it's like we are only interested in telling ourselves where our problem is, but we are not interested in actually resolving them.
Right. Let me go back to Alfred Amofa, CEO of Western Daredevil. Alfred, thank you for rejoining the conversation. I was asking about your level of productivity every year. What can you share with us?
Thank you very much. As I indicated earlier on, we are into production of rice, local rice processing and marketing. So we do every part of rice, from the cultivation from the soil till it gets to your bowl. And we are happy to inform you that we produce one of the best rice in the world. Now, looking at how this situation has impacted our productivity.
Before you get to the productivity, I'm asking that direct question for a reason. How many tons do you produce? How many tons of rice do you produce in a year?
Averagely, we are doing about 10,000 metric tons in a year.
10,000 metric tons.
Yeah, okay. But I think this year has been quite a difficult year because we also work with outgrowers, and most of our outgrowers could not cultivate this year because of increasing cost of inputs, fertilizer, seed, weedicide, and the like. And I can tell you, in the South district that we work, close to about 70% of our outgrowers could not cultivate rice this year, obviously because of the factors I have earlier on enumerated. So the situation is quite dire, and if something is not done immediately, it could lead to a total shutdown of the productive sector of the economy, and that could have a serious consequence for an already bad situation.
All right, so you were beginning to talk about the impact. Has enough been done to mitigate the economic turmoil that you as an industry are facing, Western Daredevil?
Not really. I think that I cannot pinpoint anything right now that government have done that seems to be working for us. But like I said, I have indicated the various aspects of our production lines, the seed, the fertilizer, the chemicals. All these have seen serious increases in the prices, and therefore we are not able to produce at the previous levels. And as we speak, a lot of people have now understood the concept of local rice, but they are calling and we are unable to provide them. It's quite a bad situation, though. But what can we do? Like all the other speakers have earlier on said, the working capital is going down because of increasing in the cost of production. So I think that is it. Let me also touch a bit on 1D1F. I think you've mentioned it, and Prof also touched a bit on that one. I think the policy of 1D1F, as I have indicated earlier on, is a good one. There was a policy to see how best we can industrialize, add value to the raw material, and gradually get out of this importation business. I think government showed some commitment in the first term of his government, but the implementation has always been the challenge. The needed capital that was supposed to be given to these companies to do what is expected of us was never given. Government relied on the so-called partner banks to do this, but I can tell you on authority that partner banks have failed government big time, and this is a conversation no one is willing to have. What was the role of these banks in the whole 1D1F policy? Have they lived to expectation? As I speak here, the answer is no. They did not. Where the amount of money they promised to pump into it, they have not done so. So, for example, Western Data have built an ultra-modern processing plant in Agona that has everything in rice processing. But the issue now is the raw material. We saw this from afar. That is why in our proposal to our partner banks, we needed an X amount. That amount was reduced quite drastically. And because of that, we have the factory, but you don't have enough farm, enough raw material to be able to feed this factory and cut down rice importation. And the situation is like that for a lot of other 1D1F companies I know. The problem is raw material. The raw material to feed these companies, it's not there. Generally, the productive sector in the agricultural sector is generally low. You produce only during the rainy season, and half of the year you're not doing anything. If this is the situation, there's no way we are going to develop. What I think can be done is, in the 2023 budget, government should create space for agricultural financing, serious one, so that you can produce in large quantities. Then you can add the value that was earlier on envisaged. Then this issue of cutting down imports can be realized. But as it stands now, the local companies do not have the strength, the capability to feed the nation. And it's not because we don't have the knowledge or you don't have the land and the climate. It's because of purely it's a finance issue. Banks are not willing to finance agricultural companies. And government is also not doing much in that area. That is why the situation is like what we can see right now.
All right, so 2 quick questions I want you to just look at very quickly so we can move on. So you're saying government has not done enough. You are a beneficiary of the One District, One Factory program. How would you assess it then? On a scale of 1 to 10, would you say it has succeeded? Has it failed? Where 1 is the lowest and 10 is the highest, what rating would you give 1D1F from your experience?
So let me say that before I give my rating. What government has done is, 1, to give you import subsidy. If you're importing anything in relation to your company, government pays a subsidy for you.
Right.
Again, when you get a bank that is willing to finance you, government will pay half of the interest rate. So if the interest rate is 20%, government will pay 10% for you.
Right.
This is what is all in it for 1D1F company, so far as I'm aware. But the critical issue is, will the banks agree to give you the loan? It is after they have given you the loan that government will come in to pay half of the interest rate. However, if they say they will not give you the loan, and in most cases, they have refused to give us the loan, or even the amount and the time you need it. So what government has done is good, but I think that the critical issue has not been answered by government.
All right, before you give your rating, we have to be fair. The Agric Minister has said time and again, he has called on the banks to be more open to giving loans to you, the farmers. We do know that of all the loans that the banks give, about 4% goes to farmers. That is a drop in the bucket. And even with that 4%, about 90% of that, from if memory serves, goes to the cocoa buying companies. So it has really shrunk funding coming to you. But you cannot say that it is for a lack of effort. I've heard the Agric Minister time and again asking banks to do this. But at the same time, on the other end, just to chip in, the public sector, government is also crowding out businesses by going to these same local banks. But something is being done, right?
Oh, surely, certainly something is being done. I think that the policy itself of 1D1F is a great thing that government started. So I will not say nothing has been done at all. Only that the critical aspect of the issue has not been tackled. Financing. How do we get finances for these agri-businesses to expand? That's the question we all need to answer. And so we get to that answer. These issues we've been talking about year in, year out, there's no forward. We are not going anywhere with this conversation until the critical issue of agri-financing is solved in this country. My brother, let's forget it. We will talk from morning to evening. It cannot be done because we are an agricultural country. We have the comparative advantage in agriculture. And if you are a company and you are not strengthening where you have the ability and you are doing other things, you can be sure that your productivity will be very low. So till we come to terms of the fact that Ghana is an agrarian country and we put enough resources into agribusiness, we are not going anywhere.
What is your ranking then of 1D1F, your rating on a scale of 1 to 10?
Oh, I can give government 6.
6?
6.
All right.
I think government did its part, coming in with the policy, other incentives like the import duty, paying half of interest rate, but the partner banks failed government. And I think going forward, government should embark on aggressive raw material production for 1D, 1F company. There should be another program that sticks to accelerate the production of raw materials for 1D, 1F companies. And I think that's the way to go. If you're able to do that, within 1 year, I can see we can turn things around. Because from April, the new planting season is starting. So we have from now to April to plant something. If you're able to plant very well, from April, if you're able to expand our farms, by year today, you will not be talking as we are talking today. Things might have been much better. So I urge government to go ahead to ban the importation. It may create some difficulty for now. You should go ahead and ban it, make funds available so that from March, April next year, when the planting season starts, some of us and other of our colleagues can expand our farms.
Okay.
And once we have the factories, we can now process and make these products available for the consuming public and save our dying economy and city.
Mr. Appiah, for you, you come from the business community. Do tell me, what do you think can be done in anticipation of the budgetary reading, in anticipation of what measures we can use from the monetary policy to everything else to stabilize what you do, business? How do you think this can be done in respect of taxation and levies? We have the e-levy that some have complained about. We have the e-VAT. We have so many others. And some have said that they don't want any additional taxes in budget 2023. On that score, what do you think can be done to ease the burden of the business community? Hello, Charles.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Go ahead.
That, yes. So there are three main causes of inflation. That the demand pull, we have the cost push, and the inflation expectation. In Ghana, I would root out demand pull because our inflation is not caused by excess supply of liquidity or money in the market. It's rather it's cost push. If cost of production, cost of doing business is very high, obviously it becomes a burden to the businessman and to the final consumer. What we are looking for is how can government reduce costs of doing business in Ghana. One of them is about taxation. We all know how COVID, Ukraine, Russia will have affected businesses. We have earlier indicated our capital have been depleted, which has affected economic activities. So we are not expecting government to overburden businesses with extra taxes, but rather government should come up with policies that will see how best he can more or less reduce leakages, revenue leakages in the system, and introduce tax policies that support businesses. A typical example with our sector, the FMCG, we're telling government that your VAT system, your standard rates, your flat rate is not very supportive in our environment because it has a cascading effect.
You're talking of the 19, is it the 19.5 or so, or the 17.5 something?
Yes, it has a cascading effect on businesses. And the uncompetitive nature makes it very difficult for people to comply to that policy. As such, businesses are not actually passing on that charge to the consumer. And we are forced to use our working capital to pay. Government is being short-changed in the market. Businesses are collapsing. It will get to a time government might not be able to realize any revenue in the market. So we are telling government that can you look at policies that support the FMCG market, either by going back to the sales tax where you take all your revenues at the port of entry, so that non-tax compliance or tax compliance will obviously succumb to the new policy and you can get your revenue. So increasing of tax is not something we subscribe to this time because government will raise tax, you will not be able to actualize the revenue, you will have to go and borrow money, then come back and increase tax again. And we get to the spiral syndrome that we've been talking about. What we want government to do now is to learn of the best practices in our neighboring countries. If you go to Togo, what's their interest rate? If you go to Cote d'Ivoire, what is their interest rate? About a week ago, there was a program in Kenya and we find out what their interest rate to business of 15%. If Kenya can do 15%, if Togo can do below what Ghana is doing, then it means there's a missing link that we need to go and learn. When we're able to solve all these things, government can realize its revenue so that we can get ourselves from the woods we find ourselves in now. We are not expecting government to increase any taxation now, especially with the e-levy. We told government that this is not a popular policy. Reduce it if still you want to realize some revenues. Government didn't listen to us. Now you see where we are now. So it's not the increment of taxation that caused revenue. It is about bringing out policies that resonate with the desires of businesses, that introduce self-compliances, that will make government maximize on its revenue mobilization. We are also thinking that government can also be very proactive in introducing pro-poor agricultural policies that support local production of food. Government should not just jump to say, I'm placing ban on rice, sugar, toothpaste, when we don't have enough substitute in the country. If we do that, we will create artificial shortages that obviously will affect prices. And where will we go? So there's a need for government to put down pragmatic programs that will seek to address our deficit in agricultural production. Road networks that leads to farmyards must be well constructed.
Right.
Government must market so that when the farmer produces, there's a ready market to pick it up. When you listen to the rice production people, one of their difficulty is marketing. They will produce it and they will not get anyone to offtake it. They will be discouraged. If they are taking a facility from somewhere, they will be forced to sell their property to pay off. So let's create an environment that supports business growth, that government will have its peace of mind in running its economic agendas. We also think government can also look at leakages at the ports, warehousing, and goods in transit. I've heard government want to reverse its benchmark that it was given to business as safe havens because it wants revenues. It is not that we don't want to pay taxes, no, but there are a lot of mobilization, but there's a lot of leakages in the system. If government can fix some of these things, probably we'll be better off.
Okay.
So we are expecting budgets that will probably resonate with the current economic challenges and see how best we can support businesses to see the economy running again.
Right. Interesting points you've made. Let me bring in Professor John Gachi. Prof, so looking at all of these, we're proffering solutions. You spoke about leadership and what role it has to play in this entire conversation. Interestingly, I'm looking at the graphic business this morning, and a former IMF resident representative has some thoughts to share. He is suggesting a ruthless approach to stabilizing the economy. He is Dr. Emmanuel Kuma. And what are his propositions? I just want to know whether you concur. He says, 1, reduce the size of government. And of course, let there be a rationalization of the flagship programs like 1D, 1F, like Free SHS, among others. It would be one of his 3 top priorities. Then 2, quickly revamp revenue collections. That is through, let me just get to that page. That is through the rationalization of existing tax handles. That is the second proposition. And then thirdly, urgent appeals should be put through to the country's bilateral creditors for concessionary loans to plug the deficit. So 3 things, I'll just repeat. Revamp revenue collection, rationalize existing tax handles, appeal to bilateral donors or partners to restructure our debt. What do you make of that?
Well, thank you. I think I want to emphasize on some earlier points made before I come to the statement by Dr. Kuma. I think the thing about agricultural financing is basically about marketing. If you produce, you don't have robust and continuous market for your produce, it means you cannot earn income or you cannot generate revenue. Therefore, you are a risk to financial system. So until we put structures in place to ensure a robust marketing of agricultural produce, agriculture will continue to be a risk area for the financial sector. Now, the reason why cocoa, coffee, and the rest are attracting the funding because they have the marketing structure. Take cocoa, for example, you talk about the syndicated loan that comes and then it is distributed through the chain to the LBCs, etc. What happens during the signing of the syndicated loan is a marketing issue. It's commitment that you can produce this quality, this quantity at a given time, and you have identifiable off-takers. We don't have that marketing structure for many of our agricultural produce in the country. Therefore, they continue to be risky every season. So that is why I'm talking about leadership. We need to address this issue to provide agriculture as an attractive area for financing by the financial institutions. Without that, we're going nowhere. So that is a critical point I want to make on the financing of agriculture. Now, the proposition are good. We need to rationalize some of our flagship program. Rationalization is not cancellation of those programs, because we know that some of these flagship programs are not engaged efficiently. For example, it is not every productive company that is receiving the 1D, 1F support. So it's a waste of money. So those things have to be looked at critically. In fact, there are friends who have benefited from 1D, 1F. Some of them they have to repay, but there's no documentation even as to how payment is going to be done. It's as if it's free money. That ought to be rationalized. The policy is good, but the approach towards implementation is geared towards political expediency, and that must be taken away to make the policy more beneficial to the economy. The same thing applies to free SHS. I'm not sure whether the free SHS we are consuming made in Ghana, we are consuming produced in Ghana. These are areas we need to rationalize. The procurement value chain within free SHS is problematic and a drain on the economy. We need to look at that. Do we want to continue the boarding housing system across board, or we want to look at it? And do we want to even look at the free SHS in the current form, where we learn the same traditional thing after the free SHS, the person is not acceptable in any setting within the within industry? Do we want to rationalize all those things? So I think I agree to a large extent. We need rationalization of some of the flagship program, and that also will result in efficient expenditure of public fund. I think you also talk about contacting the bilateral and multilateral partners who have provided funding in the past. That is normally the low-hanging fruit when it comes to restructuring your debt. But I believe there have been some challenges. I am aware that some attempts have been made, and I think the result is not good. That is why we are now focusing a lot on domestic debt restructuring. So if government can present itself more credible to these bilateral and multilateral institutions to have a second thought, that will be fine. But there are some issues that, if you look at it from a rational point of view, take IMF as a multilateral financier as an example, that IMF has given us some funding, and we exited in April 2019. Then in April 2020, IMF gave us 1 billion, convert that into today's exchange rate, a huge sum of money. Then after a year, we have not been able to account for the money that the IMF has provided with a moratorium of 5 years before you pay, 0 interest rate. Then we are not able to provide an audit to show how we have utilized the money. How will you, after a year, go back to IMF that I want you to forgive some of my debt, extend the repayment time? It becomes problematic. So these are the challenges we are facing in terms of the external debt, which we can divide into the commercial and bilateral and multilateral. As for commercial, you know already. I don't know how we are going to convince those investors to cede to our demand for debt restructuring. So the idea is good, but there are challenges regarding the external bilateral and multilateral financiers of our economy. If I forget the third one, you can remind me.
No, you've touched base on all of them. You've touched on all of them. But just a quick one on this bit. There's been talk as well, for the sake of food security, especially when you consider the fact that the World Bank has been telling us that about 1 million people on the back of the economic dynamics in Ghana could fall into poverty and food insecurity and all of that. There has been the call to create commercial farms, maybe in the northern belt, the middle belt, and the southern belt. Some have even suggested that we need about 2 commercial farms per region to guarantee food sustainability and maybe to feed into what Mr. President said, because it makes no sense for us to import, $400 million or so worth of tomatoes from Burkina Faso. Their tomatoes are juicier. What have we done over the decades to get there? So what is your take on that? Do we need commercial farms?
We need commercial farms, and we need a policy that will enhance commercial farms and protect smallholder farmers. We cannot have a policy that will wipe away our traditional subsistence farmers who use that for their subsistence and use that for some small income to feed their families. So we need a policy that will protect them, and we need a policy that will enhance the landscape for commercial farming in Ghana. But commercial farming without addressing the global, when I say global, I'm referring to our macro elements that are needed to foster an efficient commercial farming environment. If we don't create the environment for commercial farming, they will produce. People cannot ordinarily buy what they produce. So we need to look at the environment we create for the commercial farming sector. And looking at food security and the rest, we also need to be talking about producing to protect the health of our people. Most of the engagement in agriculture nowadays is poisonous to our people. The fish that we are producing, the chemical we give them, they are injurious to the health of people. And that we are getting to a point that we will be spending a lot of money to treat ailments that are associated with our production chain. Galamsey issue is linked to this. We need to address that. And then the ethics in terms of farming, will have to look at that, the chemical that people use. We need to come to terms with the reality that not all the chemicals are healthy to human consumption, so that we achieve food security, we achieve the idea of production to protect the health of our people, and we achieve an outcome from commercial farming that will ensure that we contribute to the economy in terms of job creation, we contribute to the economy in terms of income generation, both for individuals and for the government. That is how I think it should be a comprehensive one. We shouldn't just isolate.
All right. Gentlemen, let's look at your quick solutions moving forward, what your proposals will be in that specific regard. I'll start with you, Alfred Amofa. So you've lamented how some gray areas, maybe not gray areas, crucial areas have been neglected. The source of funds, the banking sector is not, giving you loans, and it's causing business to sort of contract. What then is the way forward? What are your solutions?
So I think listening to Prof and other people on your show, I think we can have some solution. One, there is an opportunity for producers because now government says it's no more important. So we are looking forward for a dialogue which will be called either by the Ministry of Trade or JoyNews or any of the other media houses to bring producers and importers together on a round table and see if a deal could be reached. For example, I'm importing 1 million worth of rice. Is it possible that Western Delta can produce this within the next few months? This is conversation we need to have. So I'm expecting a dialogue between producers of rice and importers of rice around in a roundtable discussion and see what can be done. Now that we have people who are willing to eat Ghana rice, we have people who have money who want to import, but that opportunity is no more there. Why can't we direct the traffic now to local producers, see if you can pre-finance them in a certain arrangement that can be beneficial to both? So what I'm saying is that I'm looking forward for a dialogue, which should be called by the Ministry of Trade. Joy Business cannot even lead that one. Bring the producers, bring the importers, let's sit down and see what can be done for our mutual benefit and for Mother Ghana. So
Okay.
I think that's the way to go.
Right, I get that. I forgot to add very briefly. So how then will this reflect? How do you want it to reflect in budget 2023?
Yes, for budget, I'm also looking, this one is private arrangement. I'm looking at how the importers can now bring some cash to producers to produce for them. But on the government front, we are looking forward for government certain an agricultural fund. As I have said it over and over, we have GET fund for education, we have road fund, we have NHIA fund for health. But there is no fund for agriculture, which we say is the backbone of the economy. So I'm looking forward for government setting down some funds in an agricultural fund that can be used in a certain manner. That will be paid anyway, but that will be quite easier for some of us to access and pay with some reasonable interest rate. So I'm looking forward in the budget for such an arrangement to be done so that we can have access to financing. Now that we have created market because the option of importation is now limited, we should take advantage of it, both by the private and also by government.
Mr. Amofa, thank you so much for joining the conversation. Alfred Amofa is CEO, Western Daredevil, a beneficiary of the One District, One Factory program. Let me come to Charles. For you, what is the way forward, both on a private level and your expectations from government by way of the 2023 budget?
Okay, so thank you once again. We are in this because of government's inability to raise enough revenue to meet its debt obligations. And we must be looking at how we can reduce unnecessary expenditure and loss of revenue in the system. One of the things that we want to propose to government is to look at the tax exemption policies for corporate organizations and even government funds. It's estimated that Ghana will lose almost about 2.2 billion Ghana cedis on tax exemptions to big organizations that have what it takes to pay taxes. It is also a fact that we also lose money or revenue through financial irregularities in the market. We lose almost about $3 billion that we are looking from IMF. So if government could be up and doing to address some of these revenue leakages within the public sector, probably we could be saving some money. The other thing is about the Fiscal Responsibility Act, which cap government's deficit to about 5% to GDP or total revenue. That was suspended because of COVID. If it can be restored to bring some discipline within the fiscal space of government, that would be fine. And we could also be looking at the tax exemption act bill which have been passed. We want to push government to implement it fully. That we know can also save this country almost about 500 million Ghana cedis. If government is able to rake in some of these revenue, then obviously we will not be overburdening business by introducing new taxes because we want to raise revenue. We want government to look at some of these things, and typically within the FMCG space, we have been advocating that because we need to make food accessible to the ordinary Ghanaian, that VAT policy does not support that. It defiles the basic principles of taxation, which are about equity and uniformity. Within our market, we have zero rated, we have standard rate, we have the flat rate. How could that be in the market? So if they could take away VAT, the VAT from the FMCG market, and that will make food much more accessible and cheaper to the ordinary Ghanaian. Now what we need is how do we survive? How can we maintain our sanity through food so we can promote Ghana and help government to achieve its economic goals? Basically, some of these things we are looking at. So we are not expecting any new taxes from government, but we want to see how best can government introduce policies that will support the growth of businesses. We have a secretariat in Ghana, but we are being played off because of cost of production. If we are able to, if Dadel is able to produce in Ghana, he cannot export to Togo because it might not meet the competition there because Togo is much more cheaper. Government should be much more exploring other avenues to see what funding can it get for businesses that are much more cheaper to help running businesses in Ghana much more affordable to the businessmen and women in Ghana. Thank you.
Charles, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us on this all-important matter. Charles Appiah is Executive Secretary, Ashanti Business Owners Association, that is ABOA. Thank you so much for having joined us. Prof, I'll wrap with you. What is the way forward? Between now, the end of the year, the first quarter of next year, what are some of the measures we can put in place to shore up our economy and which should be reflecting in our budget for 2023 as well?
Well, some of the issues have been raised, so I'll just focus on some other ones. Well, I think we've gotten to a point that we need to prioritize productivity in the country. Agricultural productivity ought to be enhanced by deliberate policies. I think we do that for rubber, coffee, cocoa, and the rest. There are times that they are able to arrange for cheaper credits for for farmers. So we need to identify and target crops that meet our consumption needs that we want to promote, especially if we don't want to continue to import 400 million worth of tomatoes from Burkina Faso. We want to see a very clear policy and financial support scheme that will enhance that to take place. I believe that is what we should be doing. Monetary policy should not be distanced away from fiscal policy and our real sector. The monetary policy should look into what is in the real sector, and the real sector should be set up to feed into monetary policy. And it is only then that we will achieve something that will be worthwhile for the country.
Prof, thank you so much for having joined the conversation. Professor John Gachi is Dean of the Business School at the University of Cape Coast. All these gentlemen joined us for our conversation this morning. But there's still a lot more to come. Shortly, we'll be headed to the Malata market. We'll give you the microphone as a citizen, and we'll be interacting with market women to find out what the costs of goods is and how they are faring basically in these economic times. What are they doing? Are they translating the right cost to the end user, the consumer? That, and later we'll also be talking about the latest when it comes to the Director General of the Ghana Education Service and that industrial action. Where do we go from there? All of that still to come on the AM show. Do stay.
Day one of the meeting between the teacher unions and the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Labor, and as well as the GES has come to an end, but they did not reach a decision. They are to return to the table tomorrow for the finality of the matter to be determined. In fact, when we spoke with them, they indicated that they belong to some other associations, and so they had to reach out to them. It's not all of them that they have gotten in touch with, and so they want to do that. That is from the teacher union. They want to do that and then return to the table, and they are confident that by tomorrow, 2 p.m. when they meet, a closure will be brought on this matter. And we've been speaking with the president of NAT, Isaac Owusu.
The agreement here is that the two parties have agreed that we should adjourn and resume tomorrow 2 p.m.
What are some of the considerations?
Please, we shall conclude tomorrow exactly 2 p.m. So be rest assured. We do not want to apportion any blame to anybody. Whether the government side have failed or the unions have failed, nobody has failed.
Are you getting signals that he will be removed?
Certainly tomorrow when we meet.
Mr. President,
certainly, please listen to me. Certainly tomorrow when we meet, the outcome will be before you. Thank you very much.
Continues?
I said we have adjourned to this meeting. We have adjourned to this meeting. You see, so until the teachers hear from the leadership of the union, till now we have adjourned the meeting. So until tomorrow they hear from the leadership of the union, what I can say is that the teachers should remain calm and continue to stay at home.
Only the removal of the VG that is on the table, or that
I cannot let the cat out of the bag, please. I said we couldn't conclude tomorrow. Certainly tomorrow all the detail will be put before you.
Now, on behalf of the Ministry of Education, the Labor Relations, they had a spokesperson in the person of the Deputy Minister of Employment and Labor Relations, Rekubrobe, and he's been explaining that, well, the meeting was somewhat successful, except that the teacher unions had to tell them that they had to do further consultations in order to return to the table. So they are confident that by tomorrow, they will reach an amicable resolution of this matter, and they put everything behind them.
The second time you have failed to call the teachers to go back to work.
You see, when you say failed, it's a very strong word. We have not failed. If there are issues and you are discussing and you say failed, you're already preempting the outcome of it. We have not. We've in fact had another constructive meeting, which for me, tomorrow, God willing, you know, we have to do further consultations. They, on the other hand, says that yes, they have other stakeholders beyond those who came here. So tomorrow, God willing, we will bring this matter to a very successful end.
Was this first half of the meeting successful, according to you?
For me, it's. I mean, we all came thinking that we could resolve it today. To that extent, I would have wished that this thing was dealt with and we are fine, but it didn't happen like that. We have to allow, because it takes two to tango, and we can't be that entrenched and say we are keeping them. So once they have promised and given us tomorrow, God willing, let's all be optimistic and let Ghanaians know that this matter will be resolved.
What reason did they give you for coming back tomorrow?
Further consultations. Prime
Minister, do you have the signal that the unions are backing down their decision, calling for the removal of the Director General?
Oh, I am very optimistic that tomorrow, God willing, we will rest this matter.
That he will be removed or he will still be at position, post?
We are talking about a matter which outcome will be determined.
You're welcome back to the AM show. That was Richard Kojanyako's report on the teacher unions and government over strike action meeting that was inconclusive. And joining me for this conversation is Dr. Peter Nti, who is Executive Director for the Institute for Education Studies. Doc, good morning and thank you so much for your time.
Good morning.
Now, you've been monitoring the situation, right? So what are your initial remarks of it?
Yes, we've been monitoring this situation, and we think that we shouldn't have gotten here in the first place, because in most of these professional systems, you use appointments to motivate the rank and file of the union. Mm. So where there is a vacancy, you try as much as possible to find ways and means to use that particular appointment to signal the unions, I mean the members of the of the system that you believe in their capability, you believe in hard work, and when one is able to climb to the topmost level, he will be given what is due him. So we shouldn't have gotten here in the first place. That is our initial observation about this whole thing.
But do you think that the teacher unions have any justification for their action?
Well, I think that for me, are supposed to be the last option when it comes to agitation, because the effect of strike on especially the education sector is huge, especially looking at the distorted nature of our academic calendar. I was thinking that when the teacher union signaled that they would want to embark on an industrial action, the first approach would have been, because I think that there was adequate time given the relevant authorities that this was going to happen. So the first approach would have been to engage them extensively so that we wouldn't have reached the 4th November deadline. Unfortunately, it happened that we had to get to this stage. So I wish that we wouldn't have gotten here, but I feel that maybe the teacher unions also thought that their concerns were being brushed off and they needed to make a huge statement.
Okay, now let's talk about the newly appointed Director General. What do you know about him, Dr. Eric Nkansa?
I personally do not know him. I have read about him. I'm told that he worked at the Ministry of Education. He's been in the ministry for some time now. And I don't think I can speak to, I don't have any issue with his capability or his ability. I think that he's a victim of circumstances. And if on a normal day such an appointment was made, I don't think that we would have had this challenge coming up. But I think that there are underlying issues that have resulted in what we are experiencing now, and that he is just a victim of circumstances. I pray that he's able to go through this, and if he is able to go through this, I believe that he should learn from the atmosphere around his appointment and use that, or that should prepare him to transform the education system to a higher level.
You mentioned underlying issues. Underlying issues like what?
There are underlying issues that cannot be said now, but there are seriously underlying issues. If you try to mind back, I think around May, I first released a statement, and everything that has happened after May is clearly supporting what I first talked about in that particular statement. I would love that maybe you being the journalist and your team should look for that statement from my first in May.
Okay.
And you would understand what we mean by underlying issues.
All right. Now, you know that the teacher unions are saying that they don't want Dr. Eric Nkansa because he doesn't have a education or a background in education. So should a GES DG necessarily have that type of education?
I answer this question by first looking at the backgrounds of all those who have headed the Ghana Education Service. So you go back and look at their backgrounds, you see that all of them are technically professional teachers. And I think that is where the unions are coming from. I know if you read the profile of Dr. Nkansa, you see that he's taught. He has extensive teaching experience. I think the problem basically with his qualification is that he is not a professional teacher. And being called to head a professional body like the Ghana Teaching Service, where majority of its members are professional teachers, and coming from the background that we are even admonishing every teacher to be certified and giving the needed license before he or she can teach. It means that we needed somebody who had also gone through the education system with a qualification as a professional teacher. I think that is where the teacher unions are coming from. And if you go by that direction, I am tempted to side with them, because you need somebody who has a qualification, a professional qualification in education, so that the rank and file of the teacher body would also appreciate that this is one of our own. He understands that he's gone through the rudiments of the teaching profession, and therefore he can lead us. I'm tempted to believe that is what should have been the case. But of course, he has been appointed. Maybe this keeps the attention of the appointing authority, and maybe this should send out a signal to the appointing authority that in the near future, some of these things should be looked into. Because as I said earlier on, you can use appointments to motivate the rank and file of the very system that you are heading. And if you are not careful, you can use appointments to also demotivate the various systems that you are heading. And that is what we are experiencing now. And I hope that in the near future, these things would be looked at.
So I'm looking at your statement from May, right? And you said, so the IFS said the ministry was making the GES ineffective. By appointing Dr. Eric Nkansa, would you think that, or would you say that the ministry is making the GES ineffective? Because he doesn't have a background in education.
I think the issues that resulted in us talking about that were instances that have been cited in the same letter that sought to indicate that there were issues happening, implementation issues, policy issues that were supposed to be in the domain of the Ghana Education Service that have been taken over by the Ministry of Education. So those were the issues that we were talking about. Now, if you go a step further, you will see that bringing in somebody from the ministry to come and head the Ghana Education Service it signals something that supports some of the things that we were talking about. Okay, because this person has worked in the ministry before. He's working in the ministry.
Yeah.
And there are things that have been happening in the education service that the education service people were not so much happy about. Okay, so if there's a vacancy to be filled, maybe they were thinking that you bring somebody from the education service to come and head, so that person would have a clear understanding of the implementation issues that is going on in the education service, would be able to push forward the beliefs and the aspirations of the education service. But here's the situation that someone from the ministry is also coming to head the education service, and that technically might create a problem. That is what we are experiencing now.
All right, so I'm sure the teacher unions, have had conversations with the ministry and about their concerns, and this is the last resort. So, but should a strike be the way to press home their demands?
That's why I said that strikes are technically the last option. So maybe they felt that the ministry was not listening to them and they needed to make these huge statements. I don't think that is the way to go. I think that they should be able to reach a compromise, especially looking at the disadvantaged nature of the public basic school students. And that is where we always come from, because the public basic school students have been at a disadvantage since the introduction of the new curriculum in terms of supply of textbooks and all those things that comes in between. Even when it comes to the closure of schools and the resumption, COVID has brought about a lot of learning loss, over 50% as experienced in the public basic schools. So we don't need a strike at this time. And I think that the leaders who are leading the negotiation would appreciate this and call off the strike as early as possible, so that we will get academic work running. And this should also serve as an indication to the appointing authorities that in the near future, when such appointments are to be made, they should be able to tick all the needed boxes.
Okay. Negotiations will continue today at 2 p.m. What should the parties be looking out for?
I think that the central theme should be the interest of the Ghanaian basic school students. Okay. And if we are all interested in ensuring that the students receive the needed academic attention, receive the needed teaching and learning, then we should all back down on our entrenched position and reach a compromise. And I hope that a compromise will be reached today.
All right. We certainly hope that a compromise will be reached today. That is Dr. Peter Enti, who is Executive Director at the Institute for Education Studies. Some stakeholders who've been discussing this or who have commented on this, one of them being Deputy Ranking Member on Parliament's Education Committee, Dr. Clement Park. He says that some of the strikes in this education sector are entirely preventable. And he also noted that while it may be argued that the president's decision is final in matters of appointment, but he thinks that the president should rethink his decision. We will be following this strike in our subsequent bulletin, so do make sure that you continue and join the conversation at JoyNews on TV. But also on the show, we'll tell you about Low Price Masters and how you can benefit from their amazing discounts. We'll also have a very exciting conversation because tomorrow there's another edition of the Graphic Business Stanbic Bank breakfast meeting, and this year the theme is 17 times too many. What should we stop doing and start doing as a people? More details later on the show. We also have my favorite part of the show where we get to hear your thoughts. What do you guys have to say? We'll open the phone lines. We'll also check out what's trending on social media. You can join the conversation, JoyNews on TV with the hashtag AM Show. We're going to take a quick breather. We'll be back with more.
Welcome back on the AM Show. On Wednesday, which is tomorrow, we'll be having yet another installment of the Graphic Business Stanbic Bank breakfast meeting. Sounds nice, right? This year's is themed 17 times too many. What should we stop doing and start doing as a people? 17 times too many. What should we stop doing and start doing as a people? Joining us for that conversation ahead of tomorrow's program, Charles Benoni Okai is acting editor, Graphic Business. We also have Kojo Labi, who is with Stanbic Bank. Gentlemen, a very good morning to you.
Good morning. Good morning.
If your morning is good. If my morning is good. I see we must see a violence came into the studio early. Mr. Labi, why would you? So is your morning not good?
I want it to be good.
You want it to be good? What is not good about your morning?
I guess the three of us here have, over the last couple of weeks and months, been aware of our national challenge and whether we have a way out of it.
We have many national challenges. Which specific one?
I'm sure you know the one. The biggest hanging wrecker that we all know of is a twin barrel gun between inflation and then cedi depreciation. When you join them, I don't know what you want to call them.
There's this interesting placard I saw. I said it was a bit of a joke, but I must be respectful about it because someone was carrying a placard, during the Kumipako demonstration, reloaded on Saturday, that said, the Bank of Ghana may have the exchange rate pegging, but Abochi determines the real. And today, as I interacted with some of my earlier guests, one of them from the Aboa, spoke about the fact that for the business community, it is real because as of even yesterday, if you go on the market, you're looking at 14 cedis, 50 pesos and the like. So the a little over 13 cedis at which the Bank of Ghana pegs it is a bit problematic. So there are so many issues to look at. But maybe since you're here, I'll just do this before we get into the substantive issues. Farmers are complaining that banks, you're not giving them loans. From what I know, about 4% of the loans you give go to the farmers. About 4%, even less. And even of that 4%, about 90% goes to the cocoa buying companies and all of that. Would you like to just chip in what can be done?
Sometimes you don't want to veer into policy, but notice that we have challenges across board. When you are done with the farmers and you talk to industry, it's a similar situation. When you are done and you talk to producers, it's again similar. You just mentioned what the industry is telling you about access to funds in terms of, let's say, dollars.
Yeah.
The banks know people would import, and they know that they need to have access to forex. We simply don't have it, or don't have enough. So I guess the farmers' problem compounds the national situation because if they cannot produce to feed our industry, then we are in crisis. In a few weeks' time, I am sure we'll be celebrating our farmers, and we'll have all the nice things that are possible in that sector. I mean, agric, all the productive activities happening, would revolve around having funding. But before your bank or my bank or his bank, we are able to venture into any sector, we must be able to guarantee the fact that the shareholder will come back and have his money.
Yeah.
If I'm afraid that when I venture in that sector, the returns will not be enough for me to be able to pay dividend to the shareholder, I think I'm in trouble. Nationally, I think we'll have to tackle this matter. We've tried many things, including instances where we have been told X amount must be guaranteed. I think that's...
Yes, I know. The Agric Minister, for example, has said that, look, allocate this.
But I think
it has still not worked.
He's trying to think out of the box a solution. But will it work? Is it the fact that the banks don't want to invest, or there's a problem that doesn't make it worthwhile for it to be done? The banks want to make money, technically, any sector that holds. And that's why you see many banks doing government treasuries, because technically it appears safe. But when you do that, I guess you know you're actually crowding out other people from the market. So it's a difficult one to answer.
Well, and in line with that, ahead of that meeting, there have been interactions with Dr. Kuma, who also talks about how to deal with our economic situations. I just wanted us to get that out of the way. Reducing the size of government, rationalizing flagship programs like 1D1F, like free SHS, like the plethora of those we have, and also, you know, getting some concessions from our debtors, basically, or basically those to whom we are indebted. I don't know what your quick take is on that before I go to Mr. Okai.
So I'll start with debt. So if debt forgiveness were to be the answer, we went HIPC how many years ago?
This was 2000.
By the time we were done, our debt to GDP ratio was somewhere in the 30s or 40s.
Yeah.
We've climbed back to where? So I don't think that the answer is...
We got a lot of debt relief.
Yeah. So by the time we were done, the gap was smaller. So we had a breathing space to do a few other things. How many years later? We are much, much worse off in terms of how much debt we have. So it's not an issue of how much debt we have access to. Structurally, this system called Ghana got to change. We would have to do a few more things differently. I'm sure we are digging, but the tool we are using to dig ourselves out of the hole, is it the correct one? Maybe that's a question that Benoni will have an answer.
Is it a shovel we're using or an excavator? Maybe we should explore that. Do you have any take on this before we get into?
Yeah, I mean, the issue about the size of government, I think we've all known that from day one, that it will hurt in a way, you know. So we all expected that something would be done about it before we even went to the IMF. But nothing so far. And I think with this call, I hope somebody will listen.
You hope somebody will listen? That's an interesting way of putting it.
We hope, because our situation is dire. And like the president put it the last time, we are in crisis. He used the word crisis. It tells you how dire the situation is. So I think we should find ways around it to help us.
It's okay. Let's look at the theme for this year, maybe a highlight of the theme for the last quarter. We're talking about 17 times too many, the things we are not doing right, and starting to do the things we actually can do right. Why this theme?
Like you know, that the team says 17 times too many. Every government since independence has been there. What does the IMF do? It brings some kind of discipline. It ensures discipline in our financial management. So if every time we have to go there and then we are disciplined, anytime we are there, we are disciplined. If you look at the time the NDC left, 2016, 2019, the IMF was there. We're disciplined. What happened? We went off and then the indiscipline started. So why do we have to go back when we know very well the things that we need to do so that we don't get back there?
And it's even important, crucial that you mentioned this, because when it comes to electoral years and how much we spend, somehow when we are under an IMF program, we're able to keep it, you know, but when there's no program, then just to feed into what you're saying.
So it's a bit concerning that we have to go there anytime we are indisciplined. We should be disciplined, and that's why we set up this, theme, that maybe this time around, things will be done well so that we don't have to go back to the IMF. It's not the best. It doesn't speak well of people who are capable. Ghanaians are very capable. everybody from both sides of the economic divide, the political divide that we have, both sides I know have very competent.
To NDC MPP.
Oh yes, they are very competent people who can run the economy. So I wonder why this thing keeps happening. I think with this, we should give an ear to some of our economists who are all over the place. Since last week, they've been on various platforms proffering some very tangible solutions. And I think this is the time we have to listen, because we don't need to go back for the 18th time.
So this is basically what informed the theme.
The theme, yes.
For this final quarter.
We want an input to guide government in its budget, the 2023 budget, so that we put things in order, so that we don't have to go back again.
All right. For you, Mr. Labi, you've been supporting this. I mean, this collaboration I think is one of the best things that have happened to industry. What has been the impact of this over the years?
It's been a wonderful platform. We thank Stanbic and all partners like you for just ensuring that this thing kept running or keeps running. Deliberations end up, in most instances, then you get to see some implementation. You don't get the whole, in total, everything that you ask for or all the discussions, but gradually you notice that some things get done. In recent times, we've presented the rapporteur's report for the last two events to some stakeholders again, just to inform further decisions. Remember when the president spoke some time ago about when he asked people to be what? Citizens and not spectators. Right. This is a platform that allows many more people to be part and parcel of the national conversation, national discussion. Remember the theme and what it's saying. As a people, that's the last line. So it's talking about not just separating what we keep saying are the leaders, the politicians and so on, but we as a people.
So leaders and followers, yes, all of us.
Yes, followers. What new must we do? Is it about our national taste, our insatiable national taste for things foreign? Is it about changing our ways? You know, you need leaders, but if you don't have a buy-in by the people, you can never go for it. So I guess it's been a wonderful experience for the past 7 years. We are thankful, like I said, and we'll keep pushing, and we'll keep nudging, we'll keep hoping that things will get there. I mean, you meet us every time to get the world to hear about it. Yeah. I'm sure there's fire in your belly. He over there, I know his fire. He only speaks to me off air. And I guess, interestingly, when you meet the people who are not in power,
right,
their solution basket is amazing. They have those who will be on the side of government doing the implementation. They would have spoken about all the answers. They get there and you realize something is holding them back. Where is the gap? Such that when you flip it 4 years or 8 years later, the very people who had all the answers, or those
suddenly don't.
Yeah. It cannot be that they don't know their work. Something must be missing.
Right.
Maybe the people, not people power per se, but people's involvement, the citizenry, got to be part and parcel of what we are pushing for as a country. This platform is one of the many democratic experiments that we are offering, so that we all become part and parcel of one game for a better Ghana.
Mr. Labi, very quickly, so you spoke about leadership and followership, and sometimes it simply is that our leaders, per what you hear around, don't want to listen. So what then are your expectations with this theme? What are you hoping it will achieve?
Hope springs eternal. Hope springs eternal. There are things that you keep hearing once a while that may be grudging admission of the fact that people have the ears. Keep nudging, keep pushing. So long as our president has said we are in a crisis, it means that we can't keep doing the same things we've been doing forever. We'll keep hoping.
For you, just tell us, who are the panel members who are joining us this time round? I know you always have a crack team to...
Yeah, we still have a crack team. We have our own Professor Godfred Bokwin.
Okay.
He's a professor of economics. He speaks his mind. He's very eloquent, very knowledgeable.
Very insistent.
Yes. he never fails us when we call. And such people, these are some of the people who make a very good input, which when governments listen, you know, it can lead us to a better place. We also have a rep from AGI coming, you know, right, so to also share what they think should go into the budget. So we have some very good panelists to discuss the theme.
Okay, and your partners, I'm sure you want to acknowledge them.
Yeah, before that, let me touch on the perspectives.
Okay.
So to give it very good taste, we've divided it into 3 perspectives. The first is the challenge, what it is, has it been, and why. And then the second one is alternative homegrown solutions, options, and requirements.
Okay.
And then the third is what Ghana must do differently. You see, it all dovetails into the broader issue about the 17 times too many. So these perspectives will bring out some clear solutions as to what government can incorporate into the 2023 budget.
Reminds me of that saying, if you always do what you've always done, you always get what you've always.
Oh, we need to be consistent. You see, now you realize that the academia and industry are pushing hard. You know, it didn't used to be that in the past because our situation was different compared to now. So now I think people are beginning to talk. From last week, like I said, you hear different, even Joy, you held some, one forum yesterday, which was, the panelists gave very good insights. I wish the government will listen.
Okay. So let's acknowledge our partners and then...
Stanbic Bank, we are so grateful to Stanbic Bank because they've noticed how important our platform is. And multimedia, yes, and then Media General. So we have to have some partnerships because we are a newspaper so that we can have more people listening to us. Yeah.
You can live at Labadi Beach.
Sorry, Labadi Beach Hotel. Labadi Beach Hotel.
If he had, I would have catered for that.
Sorry, Labadi Beach Hotel. Sorry,
right.
Labadi Beach Hotel is also on board.
Well, we can only expect fireworks. Maybe just for our viewers, just reiterate the theme for discussion tomorrow, and that's how.
So 17 times too many. What should we stop doing and start doing as a people?
17 times too many. What should we stop doing and start doing as a people?
Not just one person. All of us. It's a crisis for all of us. And
like Mr. President saying, we are in this together.
We are in this together.
But I saw some responses on social media.
We are in this together. We are in this together because I wouldn't just blame the government for what has happened.
Right.
We are also part of it. We, the citizens, we are also part of it.
Yeah,
we give pressures all over the place, and it gets them to do things that they wouldn't normally want to do. So let us all join, like the president said, and then find solutions to our own problems.
Gentlemen, thank you so much. It's always refreshing engaging both of you, especially Mr. Labi.
May you have a good morning.
I wish you say. And of course, Charles Benoni Okanye is acting editor, graphic business. We also were joined by Kojo Labi, manager communications at Stanbic Bank. Stay with us. Don't you go anywhere, because when we return after the break, we'll be taking your thoughts on social media and via the phone lines with Mapito CBD. But before I go, I actually need to take some water. Guess which one I'm going for? Water, as we know it, regulates your body temperature. It keeps you alive and kicking. Awake is premium purified water treated through a strict purification process to ensure that every bottle on the market refreshes you better. And guess what? We have the perfect sizes for all occasions. 330 and 500 ml bottles to fit right into your pockets and bags. 750 ml for the heavy drinkers and 1.5 liters for those who always want more. We have also introduced our special 19-liter jars for offices and homes. Now, all you need to do, stay awake with Awake Purified Drinking Water wherever you go. So come on, grab a bottle of Awake water and get quality hydration. Awake Purified Drinking Water, it's one for life. Remember, for every bottle you purchase, an amount is donated to the National Cardiothoracic Center. It's produced by Casapreco. For bulk purchases, please call 0262 351 251. This advert is FDA approved. We take a break while I go and grab my bottle of Awake Drinking Water. We'll be back.
You're welcome back. Now, the holiday season is upon us, and with the current economic situation in the country, I'm sure you would want to spend less on some of your Christmas and end of the year gifts. Well, lucky for you, I have Low Price Masters with me in studio, your #1 shopping mall for all electronic appliances. Now, Joining me for this conversation is Mr. Frank Herman, who's the head of sales and marketing at Low Price.
Goedemorgen.
Hoe gaan dit?
Alles goed.
Oh.
Thank you well.
my Afrikaans Dutch is a bit shaky.
Yes, but that's all right.
Yeah.
Yes, good to see you.
Is je recht?
Yeah, it's here.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Yes, vandaag is erg goed mooi.
Okay.
Yes, okay.
I'm still, it's been a while. It has been a while.
Today is a very good day.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Okay, so let's talk about Low Price Masters.
Absolutely.
And the products that you guys have.
Let me use this opportunity to say good morning to all your wonderful and discerning viewers. It's always a great pleasure to be on JoyNews, the best among the rest.
Hey.
Now, Low Price Masters, and I'm here to tell you the good news about Low Price Masters, because we are the best when it comes to the sale and purchase of all home appliances and electronics products. We are the best because of the 3 areas that we stand out. First of all, we sell durable, not inferior products. All our products that we sell are durable. The world's best brands. That's number 1. Number 2, our prices, we are also available everywhere you go. We are scattered across the length and breadth of Ghana. We have showrooms. You never go to our showrooms and we tell you that we've run out of stocks.
I see.
Always available. Millions of Ghana cedi worth of stocks. That creates credibility. So we are available in terms of stocks, and we are available in terms of our showroom from Tamale to Keta to Takrady to Ho. And I'll give the details before I end my interview.
Definitely.
But the most important thing is about our prices. We've got the lowest prices on the market today. And that is why I'm here this morning to share with your discerning viewers
the great news you have for us.
Absolutely, the great news.
So share with us.
I'm quite excited to let you know that the management of Low Price Masters, we've taken a bold and decisive decision not to increase our stocks, the prices on our stocks. So as I speak to you now, we are still selling at old stock. For the past few months, we've never increased our stocks.
So why is that?
Good. I mean,
that you guys are running a great business model. I mean, you go to the market, you go everywhere. Transport fares, everything is increasing. Why is Low Price Masters not increasing?
Well, 2 things. First of all, this year marks our 9th year since we ventured into the Accra market. Before then, we started from the Volta region where we had 3 branches. Ho, Hohoi, and Keta, which is still functioning. 9 years ago, we came to Accra, and as I speak to you now, we have 12 different branches.
I see.
Since 9 years we came. The good Lord has been so good.
I see.
So it is an opportunity to give back to our clients, to appreciate their effort and their confidence in doing business with us. That's number 1. Number 2, I mean, you and I are not oblivious of the fact that times are tough. Things are really, really, really tough. So we decided that let us put some smile on the faces of our existing clients and new ones alike. So this decision we took is to make sure that we give some kind of hope and courage for you to be able to benefit from what we do at Low Price Masters.
So now the discounts, is it for all your products or specific products?
For all products.
All products?
All products.
So I can come and get a TV at some 10%.
Absolutely.
And then fridge, whatever it is.
Well, I mean, sure. And let me give you the details. Let me give you about 5 or 6 different products. The fact that we sell all. I mean, we sell air conditions between 1.5 to 2.5 horsepower. Then we also sell, chest freezers. We have television sets. We have juicers. We have ovens and many, many more. But if you go to any of our showrooms today as I speak, and you need a 32-inch TV with only 800 Ghana cedis.
You can get one.
You can get one. It is 32-inch digital satellite terrestrial TV from Low Price Masters. That's 32-inch. Maybe you have a bigger apartment, you need 43 inches. Trust me, with only 2,100 Ghana cedi from Low Price Masters, you can get a 43-inch digital satellite terrestrial TV plus a wall mount bracket by courtesy of Low Price Masters. Let me give you more information and some more excitement, perhaps.
Tell me.
Now, the good news is on. I mean, you need a kettle for your tea. We have the 1.8-liter stainless steel. It's only 99 Ghana cedis, less than 100 Ghana cedis.
I see.
Of Low Price Masters.
So even if I send you Momo, I won't be charged 11.
Of course not. I mean, come on. That is the, Then the split air condition. You understand? We have 1.5. Now it's pretty hot, Tonight I had to manage my AC throughout the night because the room was pretty hot. And I'm sure that you might also want one, or you want to expand or change your AC.
My AC,
I want to encourage you to come to Low Price Masters because the prices are solidly low. With only 3,000 Ghana cedis, you can get a 1.5 horsepower split air condition by courtesy of Low Price Masters. Then we have chest freezers. We also have, ice cream mixers. We have tabletop fridges, double door fridges. We have rice cookers, juicers, 4-burner. I mean, it's a lot. But the most important thing is that this price decrease that we are promoting runs across, and it's quite excited. And I know your viewers are very descending.
Yeah.
You go to the showroom, and what I've said here, they want to see.
Of course.
They want to view it.
Yeah.
And I'm saying it is not gimmick, it is real.
It is real.
By courtesy of Low Price Masters. Simply the best among the rest.
So, but the most important thing, how long will this promotion last?
As long as stocks last. Because as I speak to you now, the traffic is really huge. So please, don't wait for tomorrow. Now is the time to act.
Okay.
Now, I know some of your viewers might not have the luxury of time to go to our showroom.
Yeah.
Now, we have an alternative. We have a friendly user website.
Okay.
That's www.lowpricemasters.com.gh.
Okay.
Lowpricemasters.com.gh. That's www.lowpricemasters.com.gh. If you log on to our website now, you have our products, our places, and the brands for you to make an informed decision based on your budget and based on your choice. And very importantly, you also get a discount when you go online. So please log on to our website now. We have an active telemarketing department that are ready to answer all your questions and your queries, and you are good to go.
So do you guys provide delivery? Or I would have to come and fetch the products at your store?
Terms and conditions applies to that.
Okay.
I mean, basically, we've reduced the price to the barest minimum.
Yeah.
And sometimes, but it depends. I mean, we can talk about it and we see how we can handle it. But the most important thing is that I came to preach the good news of Low Price Masters. What we have is simply the best among the rest, and the time to do business with us is now.
Yeah. All right, because I'm on a diet right now,
That's right.
So I want to get a juicer.
That's right.
You said you have juicers.
Of course, we do have.
So at a very affordable price.
Absolutely, and you love it so much.
I love it so much.
We have the different sizes with the different prices to suit your pocket.
Yeah.
Because we don't discriminate. You see, most people think that you need to have a lot of money to enjoy quality brands or quality products. But at Low Price Masters, we defy that kind of mistake.
Yeah.
You can have something small and at the same time enjoy the best brands of quality, all by courtesy of Low Price Masters. And you see, and all these products, the icing on the cake is that when you use our product, we are up to 65% energy efficient.
Oh, that is lovely.
Absolutely.
So I can sleep with the AC the whole night.
Absolutely.
And then I don't have to worry about spending more on electricity. Absolutely. Oh, and my fridge is there. Right. Oh, that is fantastic. So tell me about your locations.
All right, with the locations, I'm happy to let you know that we have for Keta, Ho, and Hohoi, that's in the Volta region. Now, when you go to Tamale, we have Low Price Masters located Lamasheku Roundabout. Then in Sunyani, we have 2 branches in Sunyani. One opposite the Sunyani High Court. Then we have one opposite, that's near the Commercial Bank in Sunyani. When you go to Kumasi, we also have one at that's at the roundabout, that's Micro.
Yeah.
Yes, and in Kumasi, plush, modern state-of-the-art showroom. When you go to Takrady, we are near the Market Circle.
Okay.
And recently, we have a new branch in Koforidua as well. And it's very, very creative, and you enjoy the facilities we have to offer.
Yeah.
Customer service delivery is on point. Now, here in Accra, we have our head office opposite Access Bank, Bambolino. That's our pass.
Okay.
Visible. You see us live and alive.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Live and alive. Yeah.
And we recently opened a new branch also in Dansoman. So all our viewers and clients who want to do business with us and you live around the Dansoman catchment area, we are opposite Alphabeta School. You see Low Price Masters. Now we have one in Tema, Meridian Roundabout as well. Then of course we are also online. So 12 different showrooms, and very importantly, we also have an outreach. Maybe you are watching me, you are an institution, you want to do business with us. We can even get our products in our trucks. We come over and we do business with you.
Okay, okay, that's lovely.
Very easy, like Sunday morning.
Hey, Mr. Frank Heyman, I hope your bosses are watching because your energy is fantastic. Yeah. It is amazing. So thank you so much. And you
because I believe in the brand.
You believe in the brand.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So this is, you have to believe and live the brand. Absolutely. And that is Mr. Frank Heyman, who's the head of sales and marketing at Low Price Masters. So make sure that you go and buy your Christmas gifts, your juices, your fridges.
Respectfully, can you give me the chance?
Okay, sure.
Please.
Okay.
We have 3 active phone numbers.
Okay.
That's 050 432 3000 050 432 3000. Second number is MTN 0247 69, 36, and 34. Then the final one is 050 39 57 693. Our low-priced masters, twice as nice, cool as ice.
Low-priced masters.
Twice as nice.
Twice as nice.
So cool as ice.
So cool as ice. Oh, Mr. Frank Kayman, thank you so much. That was really fantastic. I'm definitely, after this, I'm going to one of your branches and getting myself that juicer.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm also going to buy a television set. I need a new television set for my bedroom. Thank you so much for your time.
Most welcome.
All right. So remember, guys, staying safe and ensuring that all safety precautions are taken both at home and work is not by chance. It requires conscious effort from everyone. Now, the National Intermines First Aid and Safety Competition is here again. Students from the host communities will participate in an essay competition. Winners of the essay contest will be rewarded at the Ghana Mining Industry Awards to be held on 2nd December 2022. The competition is designed to demonstrate knowledge in mining regulations and first aid measures in terms of accidents both at home and work. Choose to stay safe and not to live by chance. This message is brought to you by the Ghana Chamber of Mines in collaboration with the Minerals Commission and St. John Ambulance Ghana, and endorsed by the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources. You're still watching the AM show. Up next is the audience interaction. You don't want to go anywhere. You're welcome back, Benjamin Akakpo.
Yep.
Interesting show, fantastic show. Always, as always.
It's been quite a lot to digest, all the conversations we've had. Economy, teachers, everything in between. But this is where we throw it to them, right? Those who watch us every morning, to find out what they think about everything we've been discussing.
All right, so do join us on Facebook and Twitter with the hashtag AM Show. Also on our phone line 030-221-1691, 030-221-1692. What are your thoughts on some of the conversations we've had so far on the show? The economy, I mean, Charlie, Christmas is coming. And people are just not very excited. I know Mami is in one of her Living Standard series. She went to the market and one of the mothers was saying that I'd have to adjust my Christmas meal plans because I can't afford to buy everything. So if we would have maybe like chicken and fish, this year we'll just have chicken or we'll just have fish because I don't have money to buy both of them. So how is your Christmas, or how are your Christmas plans changing?
I don't have any plans for Christmas.
Okay. And because of the economy?
I posted a few days ago that, so I have religious plans for Christmas, church and all of that. But in terms of buying anything or maybe the usual, what I will do definitely, I have to get a few things for my mom and a few, some of us have responsibilities like that. And yeah, I guess that is it. For my end, not much, honestly, because even a bag of rice, whether 50 kg or whatever, what it's skyrocketed to, it's just mind-boggling. So from my end, it's just what it is. Speaking of the economy, sometimes you begin to look at it and it's just left with the E. The economy is just left with the E.
It's just
economy.
Yeah.
The economy is.
The economy is common.
It is what it is. Because look, let's be realistic. You go out there and purchase anything. Look, common food. If you want to buy food from out there, I've seen prices of something you would buy usually for 20 something skyrocket from that figure. Let's say 28 CDs to about 50 CDs currently. Food.
It's terrible.
Just a pack. Inflation impacts everything. Fuel, I always say I was filling my tank for 240 CDs. I'm now filling my tank for 800 plus CDs. I mean, these are stark economic realities. You don't need anyone to tell you. So for me, it's an austerity budget for Christmas. We will celebrate Christmas because the Christ child will be born, but beyond that, the inchums and the fetchere, no.
We won't. All right. Well, let's go to our Facebook page where organizers of the Kumipreko Reloaded demonstration say they have started collecting signatures to petition Parliament for the impeachment of President Akufo-Addo and his vice, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. They also want Parliament to finalize processes towards the removal of the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta. We posted that with 175 comments and 7 shares. Let's see what you guys have been saying.
So Sylvester Ajay says, it is coming. When we have a leadership that doesn't accept its flaws and makes mockery of the people, this is what will happen. There are 4 replies to that. But then Kweku Ajiman Bedu Kweku says, concert party people. The main Kumipreko demo was able to organize about 200,000 people on the streets of Ghana, but the president then wasn't impeached, neither did he resign. You text message some 70 people onto the streets of Accra, and you want whom to be impeached. Let's all say, okay, so let's move away from that. But I don't know about the 200,000 figure he just mentioned,
quoted,
and the bit about whether it is all about figures, numbers. But let's do Lomote before you come in with Malik. Please form a movement in all the districts of Greater Accra so that you can get strong stance, I think, what they call leaders and they call members. We are ready to sign. Thank you. Okay, so that's someone who's willing to sign the petition.
All right, let's go to Malik, who says an exercise in futility. We should have impeached John Dramani Mahama first. And Amasa says they should read Article 69 of the Constitution 1992 well before they engage in this populist and fruitless exercise. Fix Ghana Now says this old man, okay, so he says that. Slowboat says are signed to enable the petitioners to petition Parliament. Let us go to Pokwase. JJ, good morning. Good morning, JJ.
Good morning. How are you doing?
Fine, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm doing same here, except that the economy is killing everybody, which I'm also feeling it.
Tell us about it. Your own experience.
Come again?
I mean, share your own experience.
Yes, I'm also feeling it. I'm feeling it as you're also feeling it.
So how are you feeling it?
Very bad.
Okay, so
let's practicalize. Let's make it practical. For example, I just shared my fuel situation and food situation. What is it like for you? Make it practical.
All right, JJ, we need you to turn down the volume of your television set so you can share your experience. Yeah.
Okay. Is it clear now?
Yes, clear.
You know what happened this morning?
Tell me.
Because of the economic hardship, I had to park my car.
I see.
Use my motor to work. At first, it wasn't like that.
Yeah.
But it's something that we have come to meet. So it has stayed with us, like the COVID came and stayed with us. What we need to do now as Ghanaians is to pray to our God to intervene in this matter seriously. Otherwise, our leadership in the country cannot help, cannot assist this matter. They only come and talk. But one thing sometimes I'm also not happy about is sometimes you as journalists, you sit down on your set commenting on that, but at the end of the day, we don't see any change.
I mean, JJ, we do, give the mic to you guys so that you can have a voice. So we are a platform to, produce these type of stories so that the people in power can actually make the change. Our responsibility is to make sure that your voices and your concerns are heard by the powers that be. So I think you're, playing a blame game, and I think it's a bit unfair. We're having the conversations. We're hoping that the people in power are listening and that they can change something. Yeah?
Well, JJ expressing his thoughts there and valid concerns as well. But we're all contributing in this enterprise for God and country. We all want the very best for Mother Ghana. And when things aren't rosy, we can't pretend they are.
Yeah.
On that note, well, it's been exciting, hasn't it?
It has been.
Another day has bitten the dust.
Yeah. So tomorrow we go again.
We go again.
At 6 a.m. Please join us. Also join the conversation on Facebook and Twitter. It's JoyNews on TV with the hashtag AM Show. It's been a fantastic Tuesday edition. Benjamin Akakpo.
Let's do this
tomorrow. My name is Mapita CBD. Up next is
JoyNews Desk. Stay.